great, Jason.
That's a strong start, Jason.
Do you maybe want to open with why you've been telling people I'm on vacation?
I thought you were on vacation, man. There's only so many schedules I can keep in my brain at once. I've got a 3-year-old schedule. I've got my wife's schedule. I've got my schedule. I can't do the vacation.
But why did you assume he was on vacation?
I don't know, because he said he couldn't do it Thursday, Friday. I assumed he was taking the extended weekend with the family, going off into the Serbian mountains, catching some pigs or something, doing a whole roast. I thought this was like a whole thing.
You just picture Yanko's life when he gets home from events. Like he just picks up, he drops one suitcase and then picks up like a fucking camper backpack and goes out in the wild. Is that you really get that vibe when you think of Yanko?
Yeah, well, it's kind of what I hope. It's it's like the image that I want Yanko to be, not so much the Yanko that is. I want him to like go home and just pick up like a to-go bag, like a little Serbian rucksack, and just head off into the wilderness.
So he's living another life we don't know about. Is that true, Yanko?
A famous brand, Serbian rucksacks, known everywhere across the world. Just what I wanted to hear, another person telling me how I'm supposed to live my life. Thank you, Jason, for that.
And an American at that, so it really hits home a little bit extra hard.
Favorite type. Yeah, no vacation. I did just go back to my hometown because one of my best friends had a kid. So, we make this big party and everything. So we went there for that.
Did you have
that
a pig
was Thursday.
roast?
No. Just a lot of booze and music, as you can hear from my voice today. So yeah, that was it. That was like just Thursday and Friday.
I have a solution to your problems, guys. If you move to the other side of the world, away from all of your family and friends, you never have to do anything. You can just sit indoors and play Counter-Strike all day, every day. So it doesn't matter that there's hour-plus long breaks between all the Blast games. We could watch them all. No one's going to say anything. No one's going to say boo to a goose. You don't even have to go outside. I did go outside. I got a coffee, and I'm going to go outside later. The weather looks lovely. How's the weather shaping up in the cold parts of the world where you guys are?
Bro, it was like the entire time I was in Stockholm, it's like sunny, it's 17, 18 degrees, it's great. I come back, it's cloudy every day, 10 degrees, like windy as fuck. I'm like, all right, sound. So I'm just going to miss out on good weather the entire time. I'm going to wait for June.
It was frigid here. I was layered up. I was doing like the fucking long underwear underneath the jeans, like layers on the top.
Long johns.
Yeah. It was so cold here when I got back to walk the dogs. It was painfully cold, like on the skin. And then yesterday it was 65 degrees. So it just like turned into summer within 24 hours. And then today it's back to being a little bit chilly and rainy. It's that time of the season where in this part of the world, weather just bounces up and down, man. That's just the life we lead. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. My mum sent me a video and it's like, I guess old people are starting to doom scroll all the time now. Excuse me.
Yes, dude. Yes, so they are.
I think it's over for old people. I think they're just going to end up as full potatoes. But my mum sent me a story, and it was just like, it says Malta in March, and then all it is just a reel where it just goes from place to place in Malta where it's flooding. And I'm like, yeah, like the place is not really built for rain. So when it does rain, it gets quite wet. But I have a real story, gentlemen.
All right.
Okay.
I had to put some of my my plumbing expertise to the use. The water the other day in my apartment just stopped. There just stopped being water. There was no water. So the taps weren't running, couldn't flush the toilet. So I messaged the landlord and I say, hey, like, is this a building thing? Like, have you got a plumber in? Are you doing something building wise? Or, is this just an isolated issue? And he's like, nah, nothing new with the building. So I was like, fuck. So he was at work. And this was maybe mid-afternoon. So I was like, okay, he's like, I'll jump up on the roof once I get home from work and I'll check it out. Or he's like, you can go do it if you want. And I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll get up there. So I didn't even know how to get on the roof, right? But where this building is like five or six stories. And so I ended up going up there. And as I was going up there, the landlord was actually back. He was getting something checked, but he's wearing a full suit. So there's no way he's going on the roof. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it. So I'm like, how do I get there? And it seems like a dumb question. He's like, you have to go up a level. And he was pretty smug when he said it. And I was like, motherfucker, I don't know where the roof is. Right? I don't go to the roof. The roof, I'm on the third floor. I ain't going to the roof. But he was like, yeah. And I'd already been up to the top floor and there was only a window. He was like, yeah, crawl through the window. Well, just like on EPL, windows are doors, guys. That's a great throwback. I don't know if you guys were there for all of that. Anyway, I climb out. Yeah. I'm on the roof. Now, there's 22 apartments in this complex. And he's like, yeah, they should.
Half of them are CS people.
He's like, the tanks, right? Because each apartment has their own water tank. should be labeled. No fucking labels, mate. No, at least not enough to. There's maybe 7 of them that are clearly labeled out of 22 tanks. So now I have to discern which tank is my tank out of the 22 tanks on the roof to work out why I'm not getting any water. So this whole fucking thing, I'm standing in my shaft where I can see where the water comes from, trying to work out how that runs to the roof, then to where that tank's going to go on the other side of the fucking building. Long story short, I work it out. It's an issue with the float valve, right? So the water's not filling up the tank, right? It's not receiving water from the mains. So I'm not getting any water that way. I fix the float valve, but I run the cunt. I get it going. It's all good.
Did you nail the right tank out of the gate? Was it
no?
Your tank?
So what I did was I initially it was tough. I actually ended up checking all 22 tanks. I checked all, but
oh my god.
I checked all 22 tanks after I had already identified which one I thought was mine, just to make sure.
Sure.
Because otherwise, like, it could have not been the fix. And you can't tell it's the fix because I fixed the flow valve, so now the water starts running again to fill the tank, but the tank needs to get to a certain point before, because it's gravity fed, right? Because so water gets run from the ground up onto the roof, stored in the tank, and then that way, when you call for your water, right, you need a massive pump otherwise. Anyway, this way it's more of a viable. Anyway, I think I'm going to go up there later today and take the cap off. Just for a bit more water,
just
more
for
air
shits
pressure.
And giggles.
No, more air pressure to force a higher pressure of water coming out.
Yeah, you're
because
not getting
it's gravity. I'm not getting enough. Yeah. It's too slow. It's too slow. Here's another Malta story. We'll keep him flying. Hugo B. Byron the other day.
Yeah,
he's back. He's back in Malta. Dinko got here. Dinko stayed for a day. Then he fucked off. But Byron is living below me. That used to be Dinko's place. Long story short, he's got his folks coming around to spend like a week here or whatever.
Oh, the actual Lord Byron is coming.
I haven't met them. I might, and I don't know if it will be them or not, but I'll look for people with large hands.
I don't know why it's crazy to think like that Hugo has parents.
Because he does feel like a test tube baby, doesn't he?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it does feel like he's come like...
Or just like a creature that hatched from an egg.
Or like a Batman type lore that we don't know about, where his parents were killed in an alley.
Parents.
Yeah. So anyway, he messages me, and I have his spare key. I've got Henry's spare key. I've got Hugo's spare key. So if you want to break into all three
None
apartments,
of them trust anyone but
you.
First. None of them trust anyone but you.
He's
Jason,
the only responsible
in Malta
one.
right now, who is the most trustworthy out of Machine, Henry G, Hugo B. Byron, and myself? Hugo's a close second. But Hugo can't trust himself with the key, and I'll tell you why. So he wanted the spare key. So I gave him the spare key. He was like, yeah, my parents are coming. I need to give this to him. So I gave it to him. His suitcase, when he flew back from Stockholm to Malta, didn't arrive. So 2 days have gone by, and on the same day that he's gotten the key off me, he's gone to the airport to go get his suitcase that's just arrived. Well, guess what? He's left not only his set of keys, but now the spare key that I gave him inside his apartment. He's locked himself out, boys. He had a contingency. It was a great contingency. He was a bit horny on the key.
Insane.
And he locked himself out.
And then you ask Jason, how is Chad the most trustworthy? Like, these people can't even keep themselves not locked out.
We were looking to see if we could climb him from my laundry window into his. It was a bit far. And then there's also a stairwell there that we were trying to climb him from the window in the stairwell into his laundry window, but we couldn't unlock the window. So it was a whole day. That was also the day I think my water went out. So
that is a day.
Yeah, quite a day.
Yeah, that is.
Lots of things happen.
Good for you, though.
That's the most exciting stuff that's happened to me since I've been home, other than the Counter-Strike stuff, which is its own things. But that's it.
Counter-Strike got pretty crazy pretty quick, didn't it? Once we got out of Pro League,
there feels like there's not enough excitement at the moment. That's what I'm saying. There's not enough excitement. Let me just pump a couple things. We'll quickly go from IRL to in the game. Sure. Obviously, there was the update with the reloading, but I also think we're at a really interesting spot of the season, right? I want to do later as today progresses. I want to do a bit of like a mid-season check-in where we talk about where different teams are at. Maybe look at the teams who were invited to last major. Stage 3, 2, 1, and see how everyone's kind of measuring up to that. But we're in that cool point. Also, like, I struggle at the moment to think of anything that is too much of a problem in the Counter-Strike space. Like, there's nothing that's a glaring, like massive issue that sticks out that's like, man, we're fucked here. Right? There's nothing at the moment. The only thing is I want Anim Graph 2. That's it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I'm horny for. Otherwise...
if that's it, then we're in a happy place.
It's a big
Just message him about it.
That's a big it. When that comes, boys, the whole game. Mark my words. Don't take this to the bank, but mark my words. It'll feel different. It'll feel the way we want it to feel. I don't know if that's true.
No,
could be complete and utter lies, but it is hope.
Speculation. That's our specialty here at Talking Counter.
I've got lots of hope. I have lots of hope. What did you guys think? Let's get straight into this update thing. What did you guys think about this update with the reloading?
I have. Let me do the disclaimer of I haven't played like an actual matchmaking competitive game of.
But you understand the concept of it, right?
Yeah, I understand the concept, and I've played some deathmatch with it. I thought it was fine. I think it's
Valve
a really
deathmatch,
cool.
I'd assume.
Yeah, Valve deathmatch.
Okay,
you know me. I like that. I like the.
Well, that's
syntax.
important to check because in warm-up server or something, it wouldn't matter about the reloading. But yes, okay, good. Yep.
But I think it's kind of cool. I think it adds an extra layer of decision making. I don't know how. From what I've just read from reactions is that it feels like it hasn't actually changed all that much inside the game quite yet. So it was one of those things when it got released. I'm like, theoretically, when I read this, it seems like a really cool, interesting change that can be a new layer of decision making and complexity into the game. But I took the angle of it off of my reaction. Remember when the nades changed and everyone thought it was going to break the game, and we were like, oh, one person can throw this big fake execute and it's going to change the way the game is played entirely and change the meta. This, I kind of took like a passive angle, and I was like, I actually am just not going to freak the fuck out quite yet and see what this change actually is inside the server, because I haven't gotten the sense that it changes a whole lot.
Jason is the epitome of not everything needs a reaction. Sit back and observe. You know,
that's the Valve perspective too. I feel like, you know,
I think I was kind of shocked with it because literally no one was even talking about this, right? Like no one was even like throwing this around like, oh, wouldn't it be, oh, isn't it like a bit of a problem, or all this like the debating of the reload sounds or whatever, like if you want to call it that way. So it was pretty surprising to see, you know, it's another one of those moments where it's like, why is this being changed? Like, why is this even something that they would contemplate in a sense? But also on the other side of things, it's like, is it really going to be the be all end all? I mean, we already see players reluctant to reload because of sound cues and, you know, all this stuff. It's probably going to hurt the casual player more than the professional player because they're just used to, you know, firing off a couple of shots and going for the reload just because they want the full mag and whatnot. So that's what makes it somewhat strange. I mean, sure, now you're going to have to take that into account. It's another variable in the equation, right, where you need to be careful about it, and it's not unlimited. And obviously for the oppers, it's the worst, right? Because now it's, well, do you think you're going to have multiple people coming your way where you need more bullets and now you need to reload, or can you like just stick with 2 bullets left in your magazine, right, and not reload just to, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's some moments like that, but I don't think it's some sort of a catastrophic update, you know, that's going to break the game.
No,
I think overall, it's another one of these things that gives us more to think about, right? And I mean that in a playing perspective or doing what we do as analysts or casters, right? It gives us more to think about in terms of decision making. That's what this has added. And I think that the stance of, you know, we're not who was asking for this or why did we even need this? I start to go down the rabbit hole of thinking, so this is another mechanism for Valve to be able to also balance the game, right? We've seen them do things with ammo in the past where they've, you know, say reduced the amount of bullets that are in reserve of a gun, or they've reduced the amount of bullets a gun can fire at once. Like the Tech 9 is a good example. It went from 32 down to 24 down to 18 now, right? This reload system obviously has some nuances to it. And I think that some of the key changes, for example, MP9, that's been nerfed pretty heavily in terms of the amount of ammo it has in reserve. So I think that's a good thing, right? The MP9 probably still needed a nudge as far as a nerf was concerned. The AWP only having 15 bullets is pretty concerning, I think. The Scout being brought down, what did it have? Like 100 shots before. So the Scout was fucking insane. But the Scout being brought right down now, the AWP only having 15 shots in total does make me go, oh, AWPing is already pretty hard, at least at the upper echelon.
Does it really kind of scare you having 15 bullets on the AWP?
So
I have no concern with the AWP.
I think it's twofold here. I think that let's say that you had, let's say you go for a pick early, right? Like long corner and you take a shot.
Sure.
Well, it's probably better for CT stuff because T stuff, you're getting to dictate when you're taking the fight. But think about it on a CT perspective. You go for an opening pick, you have a shot, you miss. You may be, let's say you're playing short, fallback AWPing. You go aggressive short, you take the line to suicide, you take a shot, you miss, you fall back. Then maybe you're taking another line that's a little bit more passive. You take a shot and miss. Okay. Now, if no one's dead, I haven't killed anybody. Everyone's still alive, but they've taken map control. So let's say they do a short execute.
Sounds like
and
you're
I've only got 3 bullets. Do I want to reload, right? So I have 5 shots, but lose 3, right? But make sure I have 5 bullets so that if they do come out short, I can hit all 5 shots, for example. That's if all 5 of them were coming through short. Yeah. So that's some of the more nuanced decision-making that will have to come through there. But I think the AWP was already nerfed with the 5 bullets, but now there's 5 bullets with only, 10
in reserve.
Exactly. It starts to become a little bit more concerning. So I wonder, do you up the AWP to say 7 bullets total and then, 2 mags? Or do you add more mags, like more reserve mags so they can take more shots and be a little bit more? And this is it. I think Valve will balance this quite quickly if it looks like it's... And we're going to learn quite quickly as we're watching the games if, okay, this gun definitely needs more ammo in reserve. So I want to watch some of the pro play on it before I feel too strongly either way.
See, I think the AWPing brought down to 5 bullets a while ago actually kind of primes them to step into this change without too much of an issue. It
always takes me back with this, Jason, and Yanka, you remember as well. In 1.6, when let's say you glass cannon as an AWP,
yes,
sometimes you would only have 4750 and you would only have 10 bullets. Right, you would have to buy any extra ammo for any of these guns, and with a USP on the pistol rounds, you have those situations, or you have scenarios where we're talking about you don't have enough for an AK with all the extra ammo, so you're just maybe buying 30 bullets, right? So you have the AK and an extra 30. It sucks on maps where you're doing a lot of wall banging and stuff, but 1.6 already had the thought of having to manage your ammo. Yeah. Yes. Whereas we've just become so used to it since Source and CSGO and now into CS2 that this change seems quite scary to people, when I think back in the day we would have thought the other way, right? When we saw it's like, why don't we have to buy ammo?
It was
anymore?
weird. It was weird when we couldn't buy ammo.
When you had a deco round, you're not buying a deagle and then buying up to 35 extra bullets. You were buying like maybe 14.
A deagle and 2 mags,
right? Yeah. And that was probably about it. And right to it, I wish that it, like my boominess wishes that was the mechanism that they went for, because it has financial tie-ins, and I like tying, back to the economy. But this still has some kind of an influence on how you're going to be able to use these guns, and it also allows Valve to pull another lever to be able to balance.
I think it's kind of like, on some perspective, when I think about this, though, like if you make this change as if you're Valve, like you kind of want there to be some situations where players run out of ammo, right? Like maybe not gearing for it, but in your head, you're like, this change is made to.
Do you want a round to end because a player doesn't have ammo?
That's
stupid
I don't,
about it. Why not? I mean,
but that's the decision that they're putting on your plate, right? Is like, we're giving you the tools in the world that you live in. If you make the wrong decision and lose a round because you're out of ammo, that's on you. But if you're going to make this change, aren't you saying that you want there to be a world where that impacts your decision making? Is the fear of running out of bullets changes the way you'd handle a situation? Like, aren't you trying to influence that situation and push the game towards that every once in a while?
But then like, what specific scenarios would we be talking about here? Are you talking more across the board?
Well, maybe in your example, maybe at the end of the round, you've missed your shots, you've had to reload, you go into a B bomb site retake on Dust 2, and all of a sudden you only have 3 bullets in the op with no extra mag. Do you want to retake with the 3 bullets, or do you want to swap out for an M4 on your crossover? Like, by instituting this change and this reload change, Valve is creating the conditions to where someone could be in a late game situation where they run out of ammunition or don't see it valuable to continue with the weapon they have.
Listen, if you're retaking a bomb site and you're taking in the AWP and you have an M4 at your feet, I'm slapping you around the back of the head anyway. Like, get that M4
come on,
in your hand,
play the game, Chad. Play the game a little bit. Like, isn't that like what the change induces, is creating that situation?
To some degree, I don't know. I just think like ammo before was never a consideration. Like when did you ever consider it unless you had like a USP? I remember there was a cast, maybe it was last EPL season. Yanko was, I think he was casting with Harry and Hugo, and he was talking about the bullets and because they were spamming through upper tunnels or something with it.
It was
and then it did actually become, then it did become a bit of an issue with the ammo at the end. So we've already had scenarios with certain weapons where that does become a point of conversation, but very rarely and in very unique cases. So maybe that might grow. But this overall ammo thing, I think that it curbs, like the A1S gets a nerf in this situation, right? Because it has less reserve bullets now, and also the idea, like watch certain anchor players play positions, right?
Yeah.
They'll use, or not even anchor positions all the time. Sometimes like banana aggro guy, you'll pepper like 3 to 4 like little bullets into smokes to see if you catch a player with tag noises as they're coming through, and you're probably reloading with, I don't know, like 6 left. And just know it. But now, if you want to do that little play, you don't have to. But if you want to be a little bit more conservative with your ammo, or you want to get the most out of your ammo, you may as well shoot all the way down to no bullets. But then at that point, someone could run through the smoke and kill you, knowing you have to reload. So those kind of like trade-offs there. But can you imagine now on Nuke outside that people they can't spam as many bullets through smokes, right? We might get more clean control or like full just unleashes of ammo down banana. Of course, you could just go to A4, which has an extra 30 bullets, but there's different trade-offs with smoke spams in that regard too. So I think that's where I am going to expect, at least at the top level, more
Anchors
impact on current
like
gameplay. Okay. Yeah, it might be the case, right? Like the A1S, I think, makes up 15% more kills in a round, or not in a round, but like overall kills. Let me double check. Yeah. I think it was like 5% A4 and 20% A1S, right, of total kills. If I just look at the year, let me see
professional Counter-Strike.
Yes, let me double check this. Silenced M4 2026. 20.16%, and then we have the M4A4 is at 4.67, so let's just round up and say 5%.
Wow. And the A4 is so much better. That's actually fucking crazy.
Tell me about it, Jason.
Yeah, and A4 has almost now the double of bullets compared to the A1. It has 150 available compared to the 80 of the A1S. But I don't know, I that crossed my mind too in regards to the smoke spamming and everything. I actually think it should still be fine, right? Because how often do you see players, like even when you do see them spend like 3 mags spamming the smoke, that's more kind of ridiculous than it is sort of, oh, this is actually like there's a
useful
purpose for this. Yeah, like he's just like doing it because he can do it, right? Yeah. And now you're looking at it, so you have 4 magazines of 20 bullets, right, for the A1S. Like outside of a scenario in which, like, let's say you're playing Mirage and you open window and you want to spam the first mag through the window smoke to see if you can get lucky, and then later maybe they, or then you're taking a fight out of connector or something, and then they do a late finish on A where they smoke bench and stairs, let's say, and now you're smoking through that, spamming through that smoke as well. Like running out of bullets legitimately does still feel, it's not going to be like easy. I don't think we're going to see it super often, right? I think it might be a bit more problematic or situation specific, like the B player on Dust 2, right? Like, because he wants to spam that lurk smoke that the T's throw and make sure he can get info or something along those lines. Well, now if you're going to do that, you almost have to full commit with the A1S. I think that's it. Like, if you have the A1S and you want to spam smokes, you're going to have to commit to like almost spraying through them and like expending 15 plus bullets and then reloading, right? Like you can't do the thing where you spam 6-7 bullets, like your teammate that's playing car, let's say, doesn't hear you hitting on any of the spam,
and then reload,
and then you reload there, right? Like, so I think in some of those instances, and look how niche of a use case we're talking about, right? Like, so
it will, it obviously will have impact. It just like we won't know until we see it in play, right? Because this is the thing. I've run around, I've played some. I don't, I'm I'm not wasteful with my bullets really anyway. Like I'm not going just to a wallbang position and spamming the wall just because I can, right? Like I'm doing it if it makes sense for the moment. And I don't think I was like a hyper reloader anyway. I'm more of a quick switch Andy, which hasn't changed. I can still be a quick switch Andy. You know, I can still be jumping around and pulling my knife out and doing all that dumb shit and dying because I don't have my gun in my hand.
Yeah.
You know, I'd shoot the AK and I'd have 20 bullets. I'm not reloading with 20 bullets. You know, I maybe have 15. I'm probably not reloading with 15. It obviously very situational. It depends on like if I was full spamming or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I want to see it play. I'm a little bit disappointed that Blast aren't doing it even for their playoffs. So I thought that was curious to see that they aren't changing over to the new patch. Oh, we've lost Jason. Goodbye, Jason. He full left. He actually. It fine? He's kind of the main guy around here.
I was going to say nothing of value has been lost. Let's just keep going.
Well,
but
the thing is, if he can't return,
he is the king of predicting upsets.
That's true, and of having to upload the podcast later. So let's see. Jason, are you okay?
Yeah. I bumped the.
Oh, we've lost him.
You muted yourself.
I bumped my mic cable. Yeah, I did. I bumped my mic cable and it stopped recognizing the mic. But I'm back now. It's fine.
Okay. He's back. All right. Lucky we didn't diverge.
We were saying it wouldn't be the same without you. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm just trying to think, is there anything else with this that like maybe we're not considering? There probably is some stuff. Like I think if you had, okay, you guys are going to hate this. And I was quiet about this because I was silently an enjoyer. But now I think I have to stand up and be counted. I think I have to let the world know. I have to let everyone know. I was never really a Vertigo hater like the rest of you. And now that the A1S,
mate, that's the worst kept secret in Counter-Strike.
Might have some reduced spam ability. Maybe Vertigo could work again.
Okay, that's what you're gonna cook.
How dare you?
I think they pretty much fucked Vertigo in the last update. I think this new version
Jason.
is gross. It's gross.
Oh, you mean with the gap that opened up?
Yeah, the new gap and the railing around at the B-bomb site. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, look, I don't think this update is going to have too huge of an impact. I do think it will offer some more unique scenarios. I do think it makes you more conscious of your ammo, whereas before you weren't punished for it at all. But then, Valve, if we're going to bring some things back, let's start bringing them all back. Take the info away from the radar, Valve. Take it away. Just make it little green dots. No info, no bomb.
Not even a map outline.
I don't want anything like that. Just have a green, like we're on a submarine and it's the fucking 1950s or some shit. That's all I want. I don't want. You've given us. No, that's not true, guys. I'm only kidding. But
here's a question that we didn't touch on. All of our conversation on the reload update was from the perspective of the CT side. So I'm assuming that means that none of us think it's going to have a very big difference to the T side whatsoever. Because you don't do as much spamming, obviously. You don't have any anchor rolls. You don't have
maybe on ecos, like when you're fighting an eco or a lower buy. How often are you fighting like 4 CTs at once?
Not that frequently.
Right. So you might get in a duel with maybe 2 or 3. Let's say we're coming out long corner. It's fast. You know, I might get 3 pretty quick fights there, but at the same time, I'm either dead or I'm alive, and I'm not.
And the spamming angle doesn't have as much of an importance to things. I guess the only time on the T side it might actually wreck you is if the CTs are executing some kind of like aggressive piece of like map control or like retaking like a mid, Xbox or something. Yeah, catch you off guard, but. Yeah.
Let's say Mirage, you've come out top mid and you've spammed like, you know, a defensive short smoke, or you've spammed the top mid smoke or whatever to see if they're closed, and then you haven't reloaded and they've done like a collapse on middle through short, con and window, and you only have, I don't know, 10 bullets or something. Then maybe, right? But the main thing for me is the jury is out. The jury has not, there's no verdict from the jury. We'll have to wait and see for pro games to be played.
For how aggressively people seem to hate this update when it came out, like 3 days later, I'm seeing crickets on people who think it's like the biggest criticism you got is what Yanko said, where it's like nobody asked for this, and it's like but it hasn't changed the game in any meaningful way, you know.
It's just conceptually, right?
People haven't asked for a lot of things, right? That have improved the game, like you mentioned, the grenade dropping, the smokes, being able to break smokes, and so on and so on. Like there's been a lot of changes over the years that didn't cross people's minds that turned out to be a net positive for the game. Yeah.
My favorite was when I saw people discussing realism, and I was like, guys, read the patch notes. At no point was anything about realism a reference point for why they did this. Right. This is I let me find the blog post because I think that this is quite interesting because they are communicating. I think. Right. It's like talking to aliens, but they are communicating with this one here.
It's like Arrival. We got to figure out the language. We gotta be able to convert it into something we can all understand.
News, Counter-Strike 2 updates. I actually should have this bookmarked. Why don't I have this bookmarked? It's now bookmarked. I don't know. There we go.
Reloading has been refactored to encourage more careful consideration of the use of ammo. When you reload a magazine-fed weapon, all remaining ammo in the magazine is discarded and a new full magazine is taken from the reserves. Reserve ammunition is now represented either as number of magazines, shells, or bullets, depending on the weapon. The fill level of the current weapon is now displayed below the ammo count, and tuned reserve magazines counts per weapon.
Is that from the blog post or from the patch notes?
That's from the patch notes.
Okay, so this is what I think is interesting from the blog post, right? This is what they say. When you reload in CS2, the leftover ammo in your magazine is dumped back into an essentially endless reserve supply. And so the decision to reload has never offered significant trade-offs. In a safe position with enough time, you might reload after firing a single bullet or half a mag, or after firing down to empty, and the rest of the round would be unaffected, right? So essentially here they're pointing out that before there wasn't any real consequences on when you decided to reload because it had no impact, right, on your reserve ammo. We think the decision to reload should have higher stakes. All right, very clearly. Valve think the decision to reload should have higher stakes, guys. That's what they literally wrote. So in today's update, reloading has been redesigned. Now when you reload, you'll drop the used magazine and discard all of its remaining ammo. Instead of topping off your weapon with a few bullets, a new full magazine will be taken from the reserves whenever you reload. Okay, this last part is the good one, okay? How many reserve mags will each weapon have? Most have gotten a 3 clips fill up, but some weapons will have less to reward efficiency and precision. Okay, some weapons will have less to reward efficiency and precision. The AWP, the Scout, right? The A1, the A1's been brought down and nerfed. The MP9's been nerfed, or more to encourage spamming through walls or smokes. Okay, the A4, it has more bullets, so you have more ammo, maybe you're more likely to spam through walls or smokes, even though we know the trade-offs there. So keep an eye on your reserve supply. A nice little rhyme there to get us out. But they point out the things they changed or why they've changed them.
And it's actually kind of cool to me when I because I remember I had this like kind of thought like triggered when I read this the first time around, was like, this is for how they've tried to like almost make it feel like the A1 and A4 are distinct weapons that do different things and have different use cases and different scenarios. This feels also like, I don't imagine it's like the primary motivation, but like the ancillary benefit of saying this is another thing that they can tweak to make a distinction between the two CT weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's another lever, right? And to balance. Whereas before, the way that they were doing it, it still had balancing impacts, but it was like, okay, you get less reserve ammo or you get less ammo to fire in general. Now, you know, with both of them in play, it can be, you can envision scenarios where it's more detrimental.
Active spots.
Yeah. The CZ got more ammo though, right? So it's got a whole extra mag. So the fact now, the CZ before, it was like you could shoot 12 and then you'd only have another 12. Well, now you have a little bit more. I wonder if we'll see more use out of that, because it's really just up close, get a kill, and then upgrade into a weapon. Yeah. I remember talking to one of the devs about it, and they were like, yeah, that's kind of how we think this gun should be used, or that's how we think it would be used. And I was like, yeah, but if you're playing against top teams in Counter-Strike, if you have the CZ up close and you get one and then you can't immediately pick up that weapon because you're probably traded, right? Like, you know, teams at the higher level are playing Counter-Strike when they should be able to trade off scenarios like that. So it doesn't really work like that in practice. But at the same time, we have matchmaking, we have Premiere, and it can work in those environments.
Yeah, it can. And not to mention the CZ, for a long time, they had it balanced so you could actually use it as like a little sniper pistol too in the early days. So
what do you guys make of the other parts of the update? Do you guys have a read? It's probably less important for you guys. I can't imagine you guys really care about this. You guys definitely will not care about the map guides in competitive matches.
Don't care about the map guides.
It's a good on-ramp, though. I think
it is a good on-ramp.
It's good for noobs, right? And I don't mean that in a discouraging way. I mean that if you're a new player, it's a good way to show you how to throw the util. But then not only is it showing you how to throw the util, you're actively doing it and then hopefully reaping the benefits of it while playing. Being like, oh, look how much easier it is to swing out top mid on Mirage if windows smoked, as opposed to having a guy in there with an AWP. You know, like, it's very low-level stuff.
And those tools always existed on like a YouTube or a Reddit. They've just brought it into the game so it's easier to find for new players.
Yeah, they had it in the game. You just do it on practice servers. Now they brought it into live matches. So it's not in Premiere, but it can be played in comp matches. And then the other one that I actually think is really cool, because we were doing a lot of community stuff during EPL, is now you can join friends in custom games. So like, I don't know how expansive that lobby can get, but the fact that you can just invite players to your lobby who are your mates and then just spin up a server, as opposed to needing to find a community one. This is cool. I think it's going to hopefully make, bring a little bit more focus and playtime to community maps again. Because I don't know if people at home, we played the Valorant one for fun on the rehearsal day. We played the Doors one as well. I've played a couple of the other modes. There's even one out there that's a VIP mode, but it's on Ancient. So the CTs are attacking and the T's are defending. You get swap spawns, right? And you have to there's a
VIP you have to protect.
A helicopter comes in at a certain point randomly within the round, either like middle or A or B bomb site, and you have to escort the VIP to the helicopter to get out.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so there's just some fun, funkier things in there. I think people saw as well when we were playing Rats that Counter-Strike's a bit of fun. This same guy, I forget his name, but he's the guy who made the Valorant map for ESL for that thing. He has like a hook mod. Dude, I think if they bring back a hook mod and you're playing Rats and shit, like let's get it going.
Is that like Spider-Man kind of shit where you just like hooking onto the wall and flying around?
Yeah. Like bring back the fun of Counter-Strike, because it's also serious all the time. We're always talking about the pro CS and the teams and all this shit and the money and stuff, but Counter-Strike just used to be dumb fun. I want more dumb fun.
Yeah, and we've always said we need more hookers in Counter-Strike.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that's a position on a
rugby
field? I
am Atlanta one time. Well,
it's a position on a rugby field, I think.
The hooker?
That's right.
Yep, we all know rugby, famously.
I don't. Maybe it's.
All right. What else went on after the update? Oh, the other big change in the scene, I guess it would be the roster change that shook the world. If we want to switch into that, the Nertz leaving.
You want to get straight into that?
What else you got? What do you want to build off the update? Is there any more random?
Are you outraged, Jason, like everybody else?
About what? What do I?
About Liquid moving back into an America's team?
No, I don't care. Like
a lot of people were outraged. You have to be careful, Jason. You're the North American representation. Like teams like Malbs are upset. People don't like the fact that this has happened so close to the cutoff, Jason.
I think the Mars board, I think from the perspective of the orgs that are in the North American region, I understand and I even agree with their anger and frustration about a situation where they say we've been here trying to invest in this scene for 2-3 years, and then they can just kind of swap back with one roster change and step in and be here for the major. That's completely valid, and it's a gap that should be fixed, that should be patched so that it can't happen moving into the future, I think.
Really? Okay.
I don't like
Can
that
you
from
explain
orgs.
why?
I don't like the idea that an org can get to the end of the road of major qualification and just say, let me make one roster change. We missed the boat on Europe. Let me just switch over to Americas, knock another team further down the list. And now all of a sudden I'm actually in the major. I think that's really unreasonable for the work and the effort and the competition put in across the qualification season. And I just don't think that's it's for me, that's very similar to like buying a core just so you can get into the major. I think both of them are just kind of like cheap ways of gaming the system. That being said, it's a whole, and this is one of those issues that pops up in the VRS that is going, in my opinion, to need to get patched. It's just at the moment, they're not doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything illegal. It's just a little bit fucking shitty for the orgs that have been there. So I'd like moving forward for that to be changed.
Yeah, I think
anyone have a response to that?
No, I mean, for me, it's like a little bit of boo fucking who, like that's just fucking deal with it. But on the other side, it does feel kind of shitty. Although, Liquid didn't make that change exclusively to go back to being an America's team. That was like a nice benefit for them. Like they needed that sort of change just from a roster building standpoint. Like they needed a player who was less vocal and more do what you're told and just be able to be used as a turret to some extent, right? But I think perhaps something as simple as a penalty, a 10% penalty, a 5, I don't know, can discuss the number. But if you're changing regions, I don't know, let's say 2 months before the cutoff or a month and a half, I don't know, like your points take a penalty hit in some extent.
Okay.
Now,
Although that only makes sense if you're moving like from the strong region like Europe to NA, right? Like if you were getting that penalty coming a Europe team from an Americas team, like you'd probably be hurt way more.
So what is the thing that, just so we're on the same page, so I understand, the thing that you guys don't like about this is a team gaming the system if they're falling out of major qualification
I
contention.
I don't think you can even say gaming the system. It's just the way the system is in place right now, like that, the fact that you have that sort of an opportunity. I think it's kind of, I don't know, too lucrative.
I don't think that Liquid particularly gamed the system to do this. I think that's a nice little benefit, but I think it now has pointed out how the system can be gamed in the future.
But this is the thing, okay? So we already knew that there's a lot of these things that exist, right? For example, within the VRS, there's lots of stuff that can be manipulated, right? Yep. That has been brought to Valve's attention because, you know, I've spoken to the people who talk to Valve about the VRS stuff, and they've said, hey, look, this is a loophole that could be exploited. And I think a part of it is, you know, Valve wanting to have the data of, well, will it be exploited? Like it's in the concept, you know, possibly it could be, but it hasn't been, or it won't be, or, you know. So we see this happen. If we took a 30,000 foot view from what would make the major better, would it be better to have Liquid there or Marsborn there?
Liquid.
You see, okay. Yeah, but you see, that's the easy answer. That's the easy answer because we think, you know, Liquid has better players and it'll be a more exciting team to watch. Let's play this game. How deep do you think this Liquid team will go in the major?
Not very deep. Not with how they're performing at the moment.
So would it be more exciting?
Name value that's being provided to the event.
Exactly.
And the losing the trade-off of having a team get experience of young and up-and-coming players who could potentially grow into something, right? We're cutting them off at the knees.
Let's say, do you think it's more exciting for Liquid to make stage 3 from stage 2 and then bomb out like 1-3, whatever, not make the playoffs? Or is it more exciting potentially to see Marsborn from stage 1? Let's not even say make it. Let's not even say make it into stage 2. But let's say they beat, you know, NIP in the 1-2 game to knock them out of the tournament, right? Like they have a big upset win, and maybe they provide something exciting. They play like a little bit different because they're obviously lower tier. They're more like they are your, I don't know, NA version of Foot or something along those lines. Like it's only the name value that Liquid provides. They won't provide anything. I think
actually. I think the entertainment and excitement in the Liquid example would be far higher than Marsborn upsetting NIP to eliminate them.
Look, I think that, but that in itself also could be beyond the point anyway, right? Like,
I think actually, but isn't the better conversation in this regard not about what would be more exciting in terms of run of the two teams? It'd be what's more, I guess, like interesting in a way. Is it Liquid getting in? Fuck, where was I going to go with this? Is it actually? Hang on, you guys go. Let me rethink this.
That's all right. I was thinking of this, like, Yanko, if they do a full turn now, and they in the future they actually start picking up more North American players, and they start building the team out in the future, and like, because if we see them next season flop back into a European team for whatever reason, then we're like, hold up. They put themselves in a spot right now where it feels like they were for the longest time framed as the best team from North America, right? And they were kind of the North American hope, even though, and people in the comments, they bring this stuff up and they're like, yeah, but you know, they're based in the Netherlands or whatever. And that's all fine. But I think from a Counter-Strike perspective, this was seen as the flag bearers for North American CS. Then they made these choices, which is fine. I was the one saying, who cares if they're American or not? I'm just kind of arguing the sentiment of what I've seen at the moment. So then they went European. They were struggling. There was a high likelihood they weren't going to make the major. Then they flipped back to North America. Now, if they flip again in a short amount of time, you're like, guys, you're fucking taking the piss. But if they double down and they go, all right, well, next good North American prospect, we try and get him in the team, and they win back over those fans. Because Jason, I was reading out those fucking emails during EPL. People were over Liquid.
Well,
right?
this is the sentiment of like the Liquid argument that like I don't understand is like the whole NA scene from those emails felt like they felt like betrayed, like Liquid like dipped out of the scene and like doesn't give a fuck about it. And I wanted to be like, I don't know, they were the first big organization to invest in North America back in like 2014. They were the first organization like of any kind of scale that came in and actually did buy a North American team when all the European teams were getting signed. They came into the NA side of things and built that up. So I mean, they've been there, and I think that most recent switch, to me, the way I look at it is, they were one of the best they are one of the biggest and best orgs in Counter-Strike, and at a certain point, like, you can't just rebuild in North America coming out of COVID when the scene is fucking dead. Like, when I look at that time period, looking back,
nuanced,
I'm like,
right?
what option did they actually have? Like, imagine a world where 2019, you just ran off the Grand Slam, you have all these high profiles, you're in the finals of all these big events. You sign partnerships based off the exposure that your team is getting at those big events. So you can't all of a sudden then like go back and rebuild and not be able to fulfill also business obligations, right?
There's
layers to it, right?
Of course. But I think the thing is, and it's the same.
Now the fans probably don't care about that in the same way, which is fair play.
Exactly, right? I think there's a lot of that it's like, well, that's not our problem, right? And
yes,
and they're right. That's not their problem.
They are. They're not wrong. That's for sure.
We know when we look at the fan bases of nationality based teams, just how strong of a mechanism that is, right? Like, look at the Mongols fans. Like, it is crazy. The places we find ourselves on Earth, that there's just like a horde, right? Pardon the pun, of Mongolian fans who rock up to watch these guys play, or we know how loud the Turkish fans are, or the Brazilian fans. North America, obviously, you're an amalgamation of a bunch of countries when we talk about it, right? But it was nice for people. Yeah, it was nice for people to have something to support there, and Liquid was, like, again, kind of the flag bearer. No one else has really lived up to that. People are like going, go NRG, woo, or like, go, we believe in you, matey. But it's not like, fuck yeah, Team Liquid, let's go. Like, you were like, it's so this thing is broken up into a lot of nuanced things that have come together. But I prefer that Liquid stays in Counter-Strike and then hopefully is able to take a point in the future where they can find the new North American talents and have it. Yes, I would prefer that.
Of course.
Does it suck for the smaller orgs who are trying to get in and break in? Yes.
This was the point I was going to bring up previously that I kind of forgot or couldn't find a way to word it.
Okay.
But I guess my angle too that I look at this with, that I think there actually is a little bit of an issue, would be, is it more important that like an organization like Liquid gets access to the major and we have them in the major cycle and everything that an organization of that size and stature brings along? Or is it more damaging that we're now undermining the confidence of investing in the NA scene through this VRS switch? Like, is there any of that element into it?
And that's something,
you know what I mean? Because think about the damage it did when ESL took away the teams that had qualified to
for
Pro
EPL
League pre-COVID. Yeah. Think of the damage that did to the NA scene and the teams that were on like the second tier amateur level and were like, oh, I can bust my ass, qualify, and do everything they told me to do to get into Pro League, and it can still get taken away from me. And then COVID hit, and we just saw an exodus of people who were like, fuck it, there's no point in us playing. You know, like, is that confidence is kind of important to not destroy. Sorry, Anchor.
No. I mean, you're spot on. And I am going to say, like, for me, I'm more and more out with the old, in with the new. But that being said, I don't necessarily want to leave want to see an org of Team Liquid stature leave, the game, similar way I didn't want to see Cloud9 leave. Because these are organizations that are some of the biggest brands in the world, right, that have a ton of fans who... there are few organizations in esports where fans follow the teams, follow the orgs, not the teams, right? So they will cheer for Cloud9 Counter-Strike no matter who's playing for Cloud9 Counter-Strike. Whereas you will have, Nico and Monesi fans who were G2 fans and now they're Falcons fans, right? So those names being in the game is a net positive for the game. These organizations are also... rich in the sense of this is your Vitality. Like, they're a bigger org than Vitality is, Team Liquid, right? So they have the means to build contender rosters, right? Like, they unfortunately just have been failing at it miserably for years now. It's that the team has been, or rather the Counter-Strike division has just been mismanaged, and you can talk about it, whether it's the reasons for which that has happened, like, I'm not saying it's all incompetence and, you know, things haven't worked out for one or the other reasons, but they haven't worked out. And we talk so much about North America and the lack of new up and coming players from the region, and then when new up and coming teams show up, you know, something like this happens, and they're the limited chances that they have sort of get taken away for them, or like you said, their motivation is hindered by the fact something like this can take place.
Now, this is where I'd interject and pull a Yanko and say that side of things for me is the fucking boohoo moment. You know, like where's the NA team actually stepping up and seizing the opportunity of not having a liquid in the region? Where's M80 causing these upsets and doing these deep runs? Where's NRG, you know, causing these upsets and doing deep runs? You know, like we haven't had any team step up to fill the gap in a meaningful way. All it's like what you said. No one's saying, fuck yeah, let's fucking go. M80 can do this. They're saying, please, for the love of fucking God, M80, give us a reason to cheer. You know, like
Sure.
that's where we're at in NA. So it's like, boo fucking who? Get better. You've now had 3-4 years where no liquid is in the region and none of you can establish dominance within the NA region.
I think right, M80 have imports. NRG have had imports. Like they still have Bro. We'll count Sonic because he lives in Canada, and I think that's where he plans to spend his time, right? So the Passion, we were talking about them as a North American team for a while. Like, so ridiculous.
They're gone.
Statement. But now they're just an America's team, right? With Nyx, Try, and then JT. They obviously have Senzu in there too. That's a bit more of a mess. So none of it is an actual representation. But when we say this, like a lot of the international teams that exist on the bigger scale are still an amalgamation of countries, like even the best ones. I kind of, with your point there about, none of these teams stepping up, you just need to get all of the best prospects actually under one roof. And that hasn't happened in North America in some time. It used to be 2. There was only 2. One of them was Liquid, one of them was Cloud9. And then you had the third string, which was CLG, which ended up becoming NRG/EG, right?
NRG,
they were third
EG,
string, but there were 2 teams who were clearly the best in North America, and now it doesn't feel that way. Like in the early days, you had the bro club of the Cloud9 boys, right, with Sean Gares and Nothing and Freakazoid and obviously Shroud coming through there and Skadoodle, and then they later went on to kind of merge with some of the CLG boys. Yeah. But they were at the top with that kind of group. And then Liquid always felt like the nerdier group led by Adren and having Elige there and Hiko and Nitro. They always felt like the nerdier crew. But either way, those were like your 2 top dogs. Yeah. And you even had a third string back in the day, which was the iBuyPower guys. I guess they were second string before Liquid, technically.
Briefly,
yeah. Well, we don't even know if I call them second string, but you know what I mean. They were one of the top. Now, it doesn't even feel like that. And I was on the, not anti, I was on the like, oh, they don't even need to be North American, Jason. Like, fuck the US. But now I look at it and I think for ease of qualification and for the betterment of the region, it would be better if Liquid just
so happy. Oh, it's all come full circle.
Well, they just the thing is
you're back, Chad.
For a really weak region. Just to be fair, for a really weak region, we talk about North America a lot, don't we? Like, could you imagine if we spoke about fucking the teams below Furia this much, right? Like, what are we doing? Let's just get something going so people can get excited. Because right now there's not a lot of that. But we're talking about the Liquid G2 swap. So did you guys see the Malbs interview with HLTV?
Yeah, I haven't yet actually.
So this is just an excerpt from that interview. So he was asked about the change. I didn't see myself leaving G2 this quickly. It was imposed. They came with the offer, and then I received a call from G2 that they had received the offer and they were willing to do the transfer.
Yeah.
So I asked this question.
We're professional sports now, boys.
I asked this question on HLTV. I'd like to get your guys' take. Who do you think initiated this move? Liquid, because they wanted to get the spot, or G2 because they really wanted Nertz?
I think Liquid, from the sound of the interview where he says it was imposed, they came with the offer. I think that he implies Liquid came with the offer and G2 said yes.
But I think something that is important context is, according to my sources, over the transfer window, over the break, G2 are already interested in Nertz. So it feels like the idea was already in the universe for Liquid to sell Nertz to G2, but in terms of the swap or whatever, maybe wasn't at the time. And now that it was convenient for Liquid because it was going to help them with major qualification, maybe that reignited that thought of like, well, they were already knocking, they were already sniffing. Maybe we can offer them the deal of a century right now.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the whole Nertz Saw thing, right? Like Nertz played his best CS under Saw, so I think he was definitely hot for that change, knowing that he knows how to utilize him and he would be in his comfort zone in that team. I mean, supposedly, because we were talking about him and Hunter and some of the overlaps there and them being sort of the same player. But yeah, I think Malbs obviously was surprised by the move, but this might end up being a positive thing for him as well.
I don't know if it matters. Well, it doesn't matter to me, at least, which org approached it with the idea first. I think this is one of those trades where both orgs looked at it and were like, yeah, we'll fucking do this, you know, like obviously, but I think both orgs are happy this happened, you know?
Yeah, look, the reason I bring it up,
just the only question is like, if it's a straight up trade, I imagine Nertz's contract is loftier than Malbs's, so they would have to take that on.
Throw in some cash or something.
Well, no, not throwing cash. Well, either Liquid throwing some cash to cover for the salary difference, but I don't imagine them doing that. Or
just like a joyful squeal.
Yeah,
that was a good squeal.
It was a happy squeal.
Or Nerds just having to maybe take a small pay cut or something to facilitate the deal.
I ask just to kind of thicken the waters, because it's like, well, if Liquid initiated it, knowing right that they were, it just makes it feel, I don't know,
a little bit more targeted.
Yeah,
sure.
Right. It's less about the benefit of the roster. It's more about like, we can make this slide. It doesn't look too bad on paper. You know, it might actually help us, but really, like, we just get this major spot and then we can continue rebuilding after this next phase.
But yeah, for once they're making a shrewd move. You know, like I don't mind as well. Yeah, it sucks for some of these other teams, but man, you're doing what's best for you. Like this is one of those rare situations where the player swap makes sense, you know, from the outside, and then on top of that, you get this added benefit of locking in for the major, which is, it cannot be underestimated, right? Like, yeah, Liquid supposedly, if they go to some of these smaller lands, they should be able to do enough and win some games and get enough points, you know, to get it done. But then there's so much pressure. We're still not in a position where everything is formed regarding VRS. You see what these teams are doing? Like all kinds of teams are signing up for these smaller lands, right? Because they're afraid. They know that now they're in a good spot, but they're thinking, okay, if these teams that have already signed up, if they rack up all these wins, well, they might surpass us. So now we have to sign up so we beat them, or they run into us, or we get some more wins, right? But also the losses carry a lot of weight. So I think we're seeing them still, I don't want to say stumbling a bit, but still like a blind man at an orgy. They're still feeling things out.
Hell yeah, baby. Amen.
I think that like,
one of my favorites.
The VRS, it would not surprise me if it's very confusing to players. I can't imagine this is something that they're going to spend too much time looking into. And I think for a player, you don't have to, right? Unless you're naturally curious to see the evolution of the game and the ecosystem. I think you're probably not looking into it. But for orgs, it's something that I guess they're adapting to. They've got their managers who are probably the people who initially would seem the most responsible. But unless you're willing to really invest the time and effort into understanding the nuances of it and how each mechanism is going to benefit or hurt you, then you're going to find yourself in a position with Liquid. So not only has the team been mismanaged in terms of like the roster changes over the years, also their understanding of the VRS has been poorly navigated. That's another thing, right? When we're talking about in the modern game of how good it's been for Vitality, and sure, that comes with the success that they've been able to deliver, but you look at another team, Liquid is the opposite of that. Not only have they, had maybe poor roster constellations, they've also had poor navigation of the new system, and that's kind of put them in a situation where they're suffering in both. They're not alone. There are other teams who have struggled with that too, but yeah, Liquid is the most polarizing one at the moment, I think.
Which team do you think comes out on top in terms of like the actual Counter-Strike with this trade? Like we've touched on this with VRS and from organizational perspectives, but Counter-Strike inside the server.
I think the biggest winner of all of this is Nertz.
Sure. Easily.
Like, I think he's the biggest winner in the whole... Oh, actually, the biggest winner in the whole thing is Liquid making it to the major. Then it's Nertz not being on liquid, looking depressed. And then after that, I guess we can start discussing the counter strike. I think Mattis is going to have to pick up some of the positions potentially that Malbs was playing, which is fine. I don't think there's an issue there. I think that Nertz is, you could call him a playmaker or you can call him a space taker who then turns into a beta, but he's or lurker, right? Like he'll happy
depending
to get
on if you're a fan of him or a hater.
Yeah, he's happy to get. I've just seen Nertz plays before where he'll play a spot, he'll be past some players, and he'll communicate to his teammates so they can get by. And shit might still go wrong, but Nertz will get the 3K and confirm it, right? So Nertz is a playmaker in my mind in that sense, that he's going to take a couple of risks or something a little bit more of a chance, but that chance isn't just swinging and taking a 50-50 duel. That's a bit more nuanced in scenario. I would have, and I think I mentioned this last time we were talking, Yanko, like I would put Hunter and Nertz in a similar player profile historically, but I don't. Obviously, Hunter is not fulfilling those duties anymore. So I'm curious to see how that unfolds. But I think Liquid have a long way to go. I think with Malbs coming in, it brings Shuey back into rotated positions on the CT side, which will make Shuey happier. Because otherwise he had to give those spots over and play anchor spots. And I think for an in-game leader who likes to feel the game, which would be most in-game leaders, you want to play positions where you're connected in the rounds. And Shuey lost a lot of that with Elige coming in because it had Elige and Nertz playing a lot of the map control positions on the CT side. So I think Shuey's a big winner out of this too.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I'm curious to see what Malbs is going to be able to do in this team, because I wonder, like, what I think the scariest thing for Malbs right now is how good he's looked the past couple of years on G2. Like the drop off from Nico departing, I think really.
He's going to go back to some of those positions though that he was playing when he was on G2 with Nico, right? So, for example, on Mirage.
Yeah, but I wonder how much do you lend that to the positions being being in better positions for him, or for me, I put a lot of weight on Nico's performance and presence as a player in the team help make his job so much easier.
Let's think about this for a second, right? The reason that Malbs is an exciting player is because of his aim, right? And in North America or the Americas, when he was playing on teams like that, those teams are not as fundamentally sound. They don't use util as good. They're trading, they're spacing, all that stuff's not as good. So in North America, when he's running around and bopping people with a deagle because he's getting offered 1v1 duels all the time, I'm not saying it's not mechanically good. It is mechanically good. I think that he's a very good aimer. But in modern Counter-Strike, to play a position where you are a map control position, just continuing to use Mirage, being a comm player, a short player, something like that, it's really like split-second decision-making, and it's not always aim that wins you those scenarios. It's the choice of how do you play through that smoke. So you put that aim on display, and you put it in the more proactive of the anchor spots, which would be A on Mirage, again, as opposed to B, where you're just jump spotting and doing nothing. NAF can keep that. It puts the aim of Malbs back as the focus. It's like, okay, so one out Palace, bop. Okay, one Tetris, bop, right? It simplifies things for a player who has strong mechanics, right? It's hard. I see and watch these anchors do these things, and I go, how the fuck she just got a 3K there, right? Like but I think that's where Malbs will be able to deliver the more consistency based off of what he's known for, which is shooting hard. I think it's just, I think it's still pressure positions, but I think he'll be more comfortable in those spots. Has to talk less too.
Yeah, I think that's it for Malbs. I don't think he's a bad player, but you can't look to him to be the guy, and he's not someone who can move other people around. I think he can be very self-sufficient. I think he'll do what you tell him to do without question. I think his aim is great, right? And I think when he can be in his comfort zone in that sense, I think you can get a lot out of him, right? But when there's too many eyes on him, too many focus on him, or there's high expectations from him to sort of lead the way and control other people on the map and call reactions on the CT side, for example, like I don't think he's capable of doing that at this point in his career. That's not to say he can't develop in a player that can do that. That was the most thankless thing that people were saying, like, oh, this guy is brought in to be like Nico's, as if you can replace someone like Nico. So, this is years of experience. Nico, when he first started playing and on international teams, he wasn't doing this shit either. Like, it took him years to feel comfortable enough to move people around and to also gather the experience to read the game on a high level, right? And be able to do this while still playing, right? And without his individual level dropping off significantly. So we lost Jason. Oh, no, he's back.
We keep losing him. The connection over there in Minnesota or wherever he's from can't be any good. He's gone again.
Yeah, gone again.
Mate, how finicky is this guy's setup? Should we move on?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I think, okay, you usually do this, but
yeah,
I have some extra little drama.
Okay.
Well,
like
extra little drama. I was just like, do you see this thing about Kickston's ultimate roster?
I did. I didn't really look into it too much. Is it that he did?
He just did. He doesn't have like Deco or Monacy in it. He has Apex, Zaiwu, Donk, Rops, and Kyosuke, which is hard to argue against.
Yeah. So what's the drama? Is people going, why didn't he pick his teammates?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then that's not a very big drama.
It's not a drama.
If you say so, Chad.
I don't think it's a drama. I think like if I was picking players right now, you'd have to pick Donk and Zaiwu. So unless you wanted Zaiwu to hybrid and be your secondary AWPer, and then you could go, okay, then I'll take Monacy, I guess. But like, you'd take it Zaiwu every day of the week.
Put Monacy on the rifle over Kyosuke, or Zaiwu on the rifle over Kyosuke, and the other one is the AWP.
But either way, that was no drama. This I think was laden with drama. Did you see this Magic's interview?
Oh,
which one?
I did not.
Boys, you're missing all the juice. Yeah, you
got
a lot from Rotterdam.
The one on HLTV or what?
Yeah. This was pre them playing at HLTV.
Magix or Magisk?
Magix. Don't worry about Magisk. That guy doesn't know a fucking team. So
I saw that interview.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the first question. You're straight out of EPO into a new tournament. First off, I've got to ask you, what happened during that match against Astralis? Because you won 3 games online, not the best opponents, but still convincing wins. And then you go into the match against Astralis, and it was a mess. It was like you were never in the game at all. Magic's response. I'll start with the late game sucks. They fluked the win, and FaZe life gamed, just to wake up the next day to play against Aurora and post 1 frag per 8 rounds. So just lucky for him. And you know what? Magic's channeling that is also a direct jab at Jason. Because Jason predicting this nonsense.
Wow, I can't believe that this turned to me in some way.
I'm never letting this go.
Why?
It was a prediction based on nothing, Jason.
Wait, can I just say one thing really quick? First of all,
here we go.
I didn't actually predict they'll win. That's all just actually coming in. I just sat there and I said, there's more potential for an upset than you think there is. And you know what you said, Chad? You said 100% Astralis loses Dust 2.
And they should have.
But they didn't.
But they should have. Donk decided to have his worst game in 2 years. I don't know what to tell you. I can't be accountable for that. And he bounced back immediately and is back to stomping people.
You can be accountable for that. You said 100%. Like, you could have said 99. 99 would have been okay. 98 would have been fine as well. You said 100%.
Look, Boris is right.
You said 100% of the time they lose Dust 2.
Boris is right. The late game does suck. They did
real
fluke
talk.
the win. FaZe did life game by his own admission.
Yeah.
Also,
I actually fucking love this response from Magix, by the way. It's an awesome response.
It's baller. Yeah.
Maybe the reason why Donk struggled so much, Chad, is because Astralis was the superior tactical team.
Yes.
Which is also something that Jason pointed out.
Bro, can we...
Wait, by the way, if you go back and look at that game, the flashes Astralis were throwing against Spirit in that series were fucking unreal.
It was good. Yeah. But I'm happy to stay on Spirit, but I just need to say, yesterday, what the fuck were Furia doing on their T side? What the fuck was I watching? They were just grouping up and doing like 4 to 5 man early tempo timing hits on sites on Inferno. And I'm thinking, there's no map control. There's no nuance here. Are you just trying to beat Major on gamble calls? Because Aurora just fucking owned you. Regardless, that Queserado round was sick.
Yeah, that's one of the best pistol rounds I've ever seen in Counter-Strike, and I'm not even exaggerating.
It was amazing
in any way.
That first one is the best shot, just like whipping over to the pool guy, and then that is a fucking sick round. I don't know what was going on with the T sides. They were just so direct. I have no idea what they were doing.
Maybe they just spilled over from Dust 2, where they were up 12-6 and couldn't close out on T side either.
Could be. It was just tough to like that. That was a game of streaks. We've had a few of those, but a few of those at EPL. Good comeback from Aurora. Probably the best Aurora win in a long time. Like, even though they were just in that final, that was a good win. They were still keeping the energy. They were getting loud. Wakadia, what a guy. What a guy Wakadia is. I love watching him play. He's real gritty. He gets it done.
Does anyone else get the vibe that Fury is just kind of like fucking coasting?
What do you mean,
like I get a feeling like I sense no urgency out of the Furia camp as we're about to lead into the major, that they have like significant improvements they need to make. Like every time I like read something from them, I feel like they think we're actually just like playing like 80% of what we need, and like we're all prepared and we have everything. We just need to play better. And that like kind of concerns me for this team. No one else? Like when
I don't know if they're coasting. I think that they're struggling to find the magic sauce that made them good.
As Maladoy. They got it.
Well, he wasn't like, okay.
That's reductive. I'm just making a joke.
I think that we know that a lot of their gameplay is based around Maladoy, right? We've heard them say whenever there's money, they will get him the AWP, right? So that's not up for debate. That is the case. So they are not feeding him resources, but making sure that their main star has the weapon he requires to do the output. Yeah. But that also comes with, Quesarado, Yuri, Yakinda, and Fallen. And the thing that always blew me away was not what we were getting out of the other three. It was the level of rifling proficiency we were getting out of Fallen, and how they looked like they had good structure in mid-round and everything along those lines. So,
yeah, but that's Yuri's kind of slipping away, right?
Exactly, but that's the part that's slipping away. So is it that before they were getting more output out of their individuals than they should have been? Have we returned to the mean, right, across the board? Or is their approach become counterable now, and they are still out there searching for whatever way it is to get back into the current meta or competitive landscape? But
see, that's what I would kind of expect too. But like, this is when I read like things like this. Like this is from Quesarado. Sometimes preparation isn't about playing a lot of maps or talking things through. Sometimes it's about putting yourself in the right headspace and building confidence within yourself to make things work. And like, I don't know, when I read that, like maybe it's looking into it a little bit too much, but I'm like, I don't know, man. Playing a lot of maps and talking things through is kind of a big deal, like I know you're actually doing it, but where's the urgency now that now that you just had EPL, and maybe you wrote that off because Fallen wasn't going to be in the playoffs and you were like, fuck it, whatever, this event is just whatever happens at this event. But now you come in here, you get banged out by Aurora as well. Like, when am I going to start seeing these players say, hey man, we're not anywhere close to where we need to be for the major, it's time to fucking step it up and grind much harder than we have been? But everything's kind of like chill. Everything's sort of like, yeah, we didn't play well, but you know what? Maybe mentally, we weren't quite there. If we're just kind of prepared a little bit stronger mentally, and I'm like, I feel like I'm watching their game kind of devolve.
Okay, so I guess this is kind of where we're starting the mid-season check-in conversation, right? Like, this is where I wanted to be with it. Like, this event right now is the last tier 1 event before the cutoff, right? The cutoff is going to happen on April 6th. Bucharest will be live during that, but a lot of the big teams are skipping that event, and it has no implication on the VRS. So anything now, and then the smaller lands that are going to happen between now and April 6th are the things that are going to determine where we're at. But as far as the season is concerned, we've had, 4 events played. We had Bounty into Krakow, into Cluj, into EPL. Those are the 4 events, right? Am I crazy? That's it? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
so.
it.
Now we're about to have the 5th conclude, which is Rotterdam. So this is where we see where everyone's at. Teams are making any last-ditch roster efforts they can right now, like the Liquid G2 thing, to then gear up in the ramp into the major. So from Furia, there is definitely a conversation that has started about them being on a downward slide. But them losing to Aurora, who were just in the final of the previous event, same with Na'Vi. Na'Vi have now made it to the playoffs of Rotterdam as well. So those 2 teams are locked in. They're the first 2 teams locked in. They continued to ride the confidence of their wins, whereas at the moment, Furia don't have that confidence because they haven't been getting in the wins, right? To even be second fiddle, right? They're not, the losses they've had started to get a little bit more concerning because, let me just bring it up, it feels like they're losing pretty frequently at the moment. What do we got here? So lost to Aurora, a loss to Astralis Online is whatever, but they lost to 3D Max and they lost to Bait. right? Those are their losses during EPL. That's kind of crazy. They lost to the Mongols at Cluj. They lost to Falcons at Cluj. They lost to Vitality in Krakow. Okay. Well,
yeah, I guess it's not as like
you know.
long lasting as like a downward trend, but you're certainly looking at EPL and now Rotterdam.
It just shifts the status quo because we thought that they were the clear second best team. We don't think they're the clear second best team
problem
anymore.
is all of these teams are fucking up, man. Like all of these teams are shit. Like everyone outside
I'm listening.
of Vitality.
I'm listening. I'll bear it back, but I'm listening.
Everyone outside of Vitality is shit, and it just sucks. Like the team that was the most consistent after Vitality has been Paravision, with 3 fucking rookies on their roster still. Well, 3.5 even with Zwei and his 1 season in Team Spirit, and that's what makes this so annoying to watch because Vitality is already very good to begin with, right? Like so, even if these teams are playing their A game, right? Like that would be a battle against Vitality. It wouldn't be. They would still be at a disadvantage. But now they're not even doing that. Like they're playing their B game or C game, right? And they're just taking turns messing up, sort of, or having bad losses. Like you look at Furia. Obviously, Krakow was good, but then in Cluj, you know, they lose to Mongols. Where you're looking at them making another deep run and another battle against Vitality and solidifying their spot as a number 2 team in the world. Malbs hasn't been a number 2 team for a while. They're now on the fringe of being a top 5 team with some of the losses that they've had, losing to Foot at Pro League, losing to Paravision in Cluj. Right, Navi has been on the rise a little bit, right? Obviously, winning Pro League and yesterday beating Falcons to secure another playoff spot. They'll have a rematch against Aurora to potentially get straight into the semis at Rotterdam, which would be big for them. But they also don't feel like a team that can challenge Vitality, right? Like, yeah, they can beat some of these other teams, but that's it. Spirit, who haven't played a LAN game in 5 weeks, go and lose to Astralis in their opening game. They get 2-0'd, right? Falcons, don't even get me started on them, looking better with Nucleons than they do with Kyosuke. So all of these teams are just a mess, right? Aurora has had relatively decent and consistent results. I mean, they made quarters in Krakow, lost to Furia, I believe. They lost to Vitality in the quarters of Cluj. They made the final at Pro League, right? Like they've had actually more consistent results than the likes of Falcon Spirit, Mouse, and so on and so forth. But can you imagine yourself saying out loud Aurora is the second best team in the world? Like that sounds crazy.
It does sound
you
crazy.
know, and again, another one of these teams that you don't feel can really challenge Vitality, you know, in any serious fashion.
So I heard all of that.
Yeah.
I think that the next, just so people are aware, right? Because I left the room and I jumped back in, but I did hear all of that. So with all the things you just said, I agree. I think the next couple of months is about finding out who is going to be in the pecking order against Vitality, and can Vitality keep this God status? Because something which is unfathomable for a lot of people is that the best team seems to get easy opponents. That's something that is crazy for people. That, yeah, but they only beat 9Z, a trash can, and a fucking dentist. And it's like, well, yeah, because the highest seed, when they come into an event, they get to play against the weaker teams until we get to the playoffs.
That's the reward of being the strong team.
that's how
seeding works.
So when I see this, it kind of blows my mind. But First
and
of
also,
all,
just quickly, Snappy was super vocal about this. You remember when Ants was the second, and he said, "Yeah, honestly, one of the reasons why like we're able to have these deep runs is now we're the higher seed and don't have to open every game playing, you know, or have to beat 3 top tier 1 teams to just make it into the playoffs, right? Like we get some easier games, like against teams that we feel like we're better than and can beat. So absolutely plays a big role in it.
And Vitality hasn't lost a series in 2 months." So.
Yeah, but so this is it though. All of this is predicated on the fact that Vitality keep this godlike status. You know, whether that means that they winning every tournament or not, it's more in the way they play. If there are losses in those losses, right? Does it look like for whatever reason they're no longer on the same page? And we have no reason to believe that right now. But that's it. That's what we have to monitor going forward, because it's clear who the top team is, but it's not clear who who the most realistic challengers are, because all these other names have problems that we could point out for days. If anything, I'm starting to think this Mongols game later today could be exciting. Like Mongols with Cobra Zero.
Mara.
Yeah.
But the Mara situation didn't seem to matter too much against Malbs. They had never beaten Malbs before in a best of 3. And I know it's Malbs.
Call the upset. Call the upset, Chad.
I'm not going to do that. I got nothing.
Come on, Chad.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. There's no need. I want to base things in reality, not in my feelings. All right.
Pussy.
I also,
Just keep
Mongols
saying
fans,
it, Jason.
The Mongols fans, maybe not the Mongols fans. There's a couple of people who I think have really poor listening and comprehension skills. Because on HLTV Confirmed, I did like a storyline list where it was just talking about the storylines of Rotterdam. And the storyline I had for the Mongols was Mongols without Mara again, because that's the storyline for Mongols. Nothing else has really changed. So, and we put that quite low because it wasn't a very exciting storyline. I think it could have even been last next to Tai Lu being back. Not exciting storyline, Mara not being there. And people took that as, why are you disrespecting Mongols? It's like, no, you fucking idiot. It's that as far as the storylines go, this is not a very exciting storyline. Now, if we talk about the Mongols, are they still in that same position where they're like a top 10 team who on any given Sunday can punch real hard? Yeah, they are. We see that. That hasn't changed, which is surprising with this Cobra Zero guy, right? Like
it's actually kind of funny to me, to be honest.
It needs to be the thing that is the real test for players like this is you just continue to put them in playoff games in bigger arenas and see their output. Like Kasenzu did have a bit of a choking problem in some of those moments, didn't they? So if Cobra Zero can have output and not be a choker, then fuck yeah, Mongols are pretty scary, right? Do we? What honestly, do you guys? Yeah.
Just with Mongols, I just find it funny because I did the lobby with them at Pro League once the playoffs hit, and they're already kind of like a weird one to do just because of the language barrier.
But they pretend like they don't speak English.
Yeah, exactly. And I walked over to like Blitz, and he was like sat in his chair like warming up, and I was like, bro, I only got one question for you. Like, what's the biggest thing you think you're going to be missing with Mara not here? Like, what's the biggest area where you have to step up? And dude, he didn't like miss a beat. He didn't even change his posture. Just sat back, warming up, and he goes, I don't know, we'll see. Like, I'm convinced this Mongols team, like we've had these conversations about like this whole like strategy they have, or like how they're kind of operating their year without boot camps and like staying home and not practicing when they're at home and maybe playing only and blah 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 blah. On some level, I'm just starting to come around. I just think these guys are like 5 Mongolians who are really good at Counter-Strike, and they actually don't give a fuck about the rest of the shit. You know what I mean? On some level, I think they just kind of show up and play. Yeah. I'm not saying they don't want to win. I'm not convinced that they're looking at this like they need to like have like these boot camps and like these super in-depth practices.
Is this a
like
silk
the top
pajamas
teams.
Situation, Jason?
I feel like they just show up and just play the game of Counter-Strike, and they just happen to be really fucking good. Like I don't know. Like it's crazy.
So you think? Are you saying that this could either be interpreted one of two ways? One of the ways is like, there's no one who's going to be better than this group of guys from Mongolia, and then probably making pretty good money based off of where they're from, right? So are they coasting because they don't have any? Or are you saying that they just don't see the benefit in the other things? Or if a third option, are they just happy to be, a top 10, top 5 team?
I've thought about that too, because like I don't want to sit here and accuse them of coasting, but I think on some level they are just like really good Counter-Strike players who are like, yeah, we're kind of in a cool place. Like this is fine. We can just keep doing this.
I think it's also the familiarity, like being together for such a long time, right? Like they understand the way they want to play the game, and to some extent it becomes like a trade-off. How much better could we get if we invested sort of a ton more money and time into boot camping and
energy and effort,
and doing all these things, right? Because even with the way that they were doing things, it's like they were a top 5 team in the world. Really, they made the major fucking grand final. They won EWC. Like they had good results. So it's like, is it a matter of more practice could get you there, or is it the fact that you have perhaps some more time at home and a bit more of a lax schedule compared to other teams is what's preventing you from getting burnout, and you're coming to these events, like, because we talk about how much CS is a mental game, right? And I think you're spot on. Mongols, they don't care. Like, they just show up and they play and they do their own thing for the most part. So if you can have that and you don't feel any pressure, well, that's a net positive, no?
Yeah, this all makes me think, because we just do a lot of speculation with this stuff. It's the same with like the Carrigan retirement, being like, what's he going to do after? I feel that what we should do, and it's harder with the Mongols, is ask them. But we would need a translator, I think, to be able to get answers of substance that we're looking for. Because at the moment, like, we can ask the questions, and look, if you have the inability to answer a question as in-depthly as you would want to because of a language restriction, you're probably not so incentivized to even try, right? Like, it's just probably too difficult. That's probably also why we get some pretty rough interviews out of the likes of Magix and Zontix, is because they probably are really good at conveying themselves, but not in our language.
In our language.
So it would be good if we could sit down with the Mongols guys. And I know, like, Techno is the one that we tend to get the most for the interviews, but I think Mzinho is the best for the interviews. I think he's probably the most honest with the type of answers and the way that he conveys himself. But we should ask. Yeah,
I think Blitz would be the best interview if we could find a way to get him to open up. I have to imagine he's got some unique perspectives, and I mean, I'm kind of making a lot of assumptions based off the fact that he's a grandmaster chess player, but I'm sure he has some lines.
Not a
of
grandmaster, Jason.
Whatever
the grandmasters.
Let's
not be throwing around crazy terms here, all right? Let's not throw around grandmaster.
High-rated chess competitor that he is, like, he looks at things in depth and thinks through things. So I'm like, that would be fun to get his perspective. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to say coasting, but like when I look at things with the way they carry themselves, and this is a lot of assumptions here as well. Techno's just on HLTV, he's made $510,000 of prize money, and he's been at 7 majors. Like, so when I look at that, and when you add in the sticker money and everything, I'm like, in Mongolia, like, this team, like, these guys are set.
They're rock stars.
I think like the average salary in Mongolia is like 20,000 something.
Well, yeah. Well, I
sounds like a lot
from back in the day with the Mongolian
No, that is a lot.
Right,
it's 550 to 800 USDs. The average monthly salary, 550 to 800 USD.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, like, part of me is like, and I don't want to lay this is just kind of like my thought perspective from watching them. I think on some level, they're just like happy with where they're at and content with where they're at, and they're competitive on the world scale. They became the number one, the first team from Asia to be ranked number 1, made it to a major grand final, won EWC, and now they're getting, the celebrity status. And I think everyone's just kind of happy. And like, I can't blame them. I'm not trying to like be like
the celebrity status. It feels like from
probably
the
don't
I've heard, they
probably
don't love the celebrity status.
I bet they enjoy it more than they tell you, but there's obviously like the kind of shitty and boring sides of that celebrity status, like having to go do the PR runs and having to go do those kinds of things outside the game. But they definitely enjoy being the celebrities in Mongolia.
Well, they also lost their best player, like
which hasn't seemed to have too much of an impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but it still did happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. That's just a weird team. I haven't really found a way to like kind of nail them down.
Cobra's their second highest rated player. Their stats don't look pretty, I'll be honest. Over the time that they've been together, their stats don't look great. But this is another one of these scenarios where when a roster change happens, it's going to take a while before things get built back up, especially with these type of teams. I say that, though, when you look at Aurora and, well, actually, they're probably at a pretty similar point, I guess. If anything, Aurora have had better results. But it's more the conviction in their wins, which I think yesterday's Furia one was really good for them. Can I quickly talk about Flyquest?
Yeah.
I know no one really cares.
Haven't heard of them.
Well, this is probably a good thing you haven't heard much, Yanko. I don't know what they're up to next in terms of their next event. Let me see. They're signed up for the XSC Gang QE Cup Season 2 finals, where there's Tyloo, Flyquest, the Huns, Rare Atom, and this all happens before the cutoff. So I guess they're going back to China. Yeah. They were just in China. And this is probably why you haven't heard anything. They decided, okay, now I don't know, you would think I would know, but I haven't been asking questions lately. I thought they were up to doing sensible things, but this is, in my opinion, not sensible. They went to China, maybe they weren't in China, but they went to somewhere in Asia to try and qualify for the CAC, right? So that would have been some wins there, help them out with the VRS. But they've gone to do that. So they're playing online Counter-Strike is the first problem I have. And at the same time this is happening, those 2 defrag lands are going on in Oz. Now, with those defrag lands, Thunder Down Under and Semperfi have been able to put themselves higher than Flyquest currently in the VRS. Now, I don't know how it would have worked out with the head-to-heads or the prize money or anything like that. Those teams adding the LAN wins, probably a big portion, and there was obviously a little bit of prize money that you could add there with the bounty collected and stuff. I don't know how much. Maybe they weighed the numbers and they said, hey, there's more value us playing an online qualifier than there is us going to this Auslan and beating these Oz teams. Maybe that was the case. But either way, you lost to fucking Gratisfaction. So you're playing online CS, you lose to Chinggis Warriors. I saw that and I went, okay, they can shoot. Chinggis Warriors, we know some of these names. That's okay. They're one of the top 3-4 Mongolian teams. It's not a great look. No one's saying that. And then they go and play against Alter Ego that has Pokemon, Gratisfaction, Bentet, Boros, and Pol Bandana. Now you're playing online. I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure they didn't have great ping. I'm sure they had dog shit ping. I'm sure there was probably some issue. But then again, why are we playing online Counter-Strike, gentlemen? Surely there's got to be better options and better ways than this. And now I don't know if they're in jeopardy of not making the major. But as far as it's looking with the points at the moment and everything, you can't be losing any more games, boys. What the bloody hell's going on, Dan? Where's the clay, Dan?
By the way, Chad, I don't know a single name on Chinggis Warriors, even though I know the name Chinggis Warriors. But I don't.
I've casted a couple of them before.
Maybe
Coolast.
Yeah, maybe him.
Tikuaka or whatever. He was in the Mongols Academy team for a while. And Ruse in there, isn't that Roux? Yep. He's in there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yep. I know these
like
boys.
Nice French cooking.
Regardless, yeah, I saw some of that, and that was surprising. I also know they signed up for this land, the Relog land that was supposed to be in Cyprus but then got moved to Belgrade because of war.
Yep.
And safety. So they're signed up for that. A lot of teams are, like Aurora is signed up for that. OG, some of these other teams, 100 Thieves, Monty, like there's a ton of teams signed up for that LAN. I don't know if they'll all end up attending it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of teams signed up, and I saw this with like Dexter and Thunder Down Under, where they're like now seem almost a lock for the major.
I don't know. So I see Finn putting his stuff out. He's in our Discord. I see Udno putting stuff out there, and it's not that I don't respect the work that they do. It's that I very much respected the work that they do, but I don't want to, based off of their posts, say this is the outcome because the outcome can shift. And even they say, like, I think Finn, when he put out one of his, he was like, yeah, in the area in Asia, it's very volatile because of events popping up, this, that, and the other. So I don't want to go on the record of saying a thing like that and it not happening.
Yeah, they're 150 points ahead of the next team, Thunder Down Under, which is Semperfi at this point. Now, yeah, of course, with these lands, this will obviously shift. I don't expect Next Void with Aircast, the former coach of Flyquest, to make it to the major. Like people are saying, Tai Lu now with this win over FaZe will have a pretty good chance. And some of these other teams like the Huns, Lin Vision could get in based on this land that you were talking about. That's like right at the cutoff. But it is interesting in Flyquest's case because you see what it did for Dexter Liaz. You know, the Flyquest rejects are ahead of Flyquest now in the ranking.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the shout out to Maverick who ran both those lands back to back. So the money that I donated for the prize pool, they weren't allowed to use. So what they did was they just made another LAN event that continued after the first LAN event ended. So they essentially played 2 LAN events over like a 5 or 6 day period.
It was because they weren't allowed to use it because of the VRS?
So because they'd already announced the prize pool, they weren't allowed to add more to it. So but they were able to make another event. So they just made a whole nother event.
So they ran a LAN and then they had like a little Chad Burchill Invitational.
Yeah, I think there was another bloke who also, there's another bloke who also donated some as well. So, you know, but I saw so many HLTV threads popping up at like Oceania gaming the system. Like, it wasn't anything directed at me. It was just directed at the idea. It's like, look, they're just doing these lands and gaming the system. There's going to be 3 Oceanic teams at the major. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, look at China and Mongolia, right? They're doing the same shit. And also their events are after these. So that
don't use logic.
It's over for Oceania right now. Like, in terms of more points, it's going to be super tough to come by. Whereas China and Mongolia are just going to, I think, in the next couple of weeks, skyrocket up before the April 6th. Which I also don't have a problem with. But we're just such a small place, Oceania, that it's really hard to get. Like, we have a place of, I don't know, 28 million people. So you can imagine, people don't realize, but sponsor budgets are broken up per region. And Oceania as a region, there's not a lot of money to go around for anything esports related. There's not a lot of viewers. There's not a lot of players. So there's not a lot of money. They don't have the same weights. People in the Discord are like, "Are you going to do another one? Look at China. They're doing this." It's like, guys, what I'm not taking on China in a money war. Like,
how did you just fall ass backwards into being a TO?
I'll put more money. I'll put more money for next season if he does another one in the lead into the next major qualification. I'll make sure that we talk about that in lead in of enough time.
Yeah.
Liquid just won the map, crazy fashion. It's
I saw that. Scheduling fans,
wall bangers there.
In tatters.
Yeah.
Malbs proving his worth.
Sorry, I just went from point. Anyway, fuck it. We spoke about Flyquest for too long. Anyway, the fact they got any airtime, ridiculous, kind of crazy. What are we doing? It's like talking about
should touch on Blast Open, the Rotterdam results, and the matches we got coming up.
We can use what's happened so far to kind of keep this in line with this mid-season check-in, which has turned into the longest segment in any podcast ever. But I'm just going to quickly rifle through the results just for the listeners at home. Yep. We don't have to dig into any of these unless people were watching a game and they thought it was too interesting. But I'll fly through them, then we can have a chat. Because there's more teams I want to jump into to kind of see how you guys are measuring them. Okay, so Falcons and NRG. Falcons won that. Na'Vi versus Bait. Na'Vi won that. Then it was Falcons versus Na'Vi in the upper bracket semi to qualify for the playoffs. Na'Vi beat Falcons 2-1. And then now Na'Vi will play Aurora. Aurora beat FaZe. Then Aurora beat Furia. And then that meant that Furia beat Tyloo. And then we had the lower bracket go down there. Bait got eliminated and FaZe got eliminated. So we're getting to FaZe in a second. On Group B, they're now playing their second round of matches today. So their opening round was Paravision versus NIP. Paravision won. Spirit versus Liquid. Spirit won. The Mongols versus Mouse. Mongols won. First time they beat them in a best of 3. And Vitality beat 9Z. Lower bracket live right now. It's NIP versus Liquid. Mouse versus 9Z after that. And then the games later today, Paravision versus Spirit and the Mongols versus Vitality. So that's the lay of the land right now. 2 teams locked in for the playoffs out of the 6. Plenty more games to come. Long old days of Counter-Strike. Okay. Have you guys been catching much of Blast? I feel I'm in host mode. I'm on the wrong podcast right now.
You are a little bit.
I'm on the wrong podcast.
Yeah, you're all good. It's a great question, really.
I saw some. I watched a little bit of the Falcons Na'Vi yesterday. A little bit of FaZe versus Aurora, but not a ton.
Okay, I haven't been watching a lot of these early ones. Like I'll whack them on the television or whatever, but I'm normally doing a couple of other bits and bobs. The late ones, I've been staying up late, fucking my sleep schedule, to watch the Counter-Strike, but also I have nothing else to do. So for me, not a problem.
There we go.
No kid, no wife, nothing. Just counter.
Just pure happiness.
Yeah. So like with watching this, we touched upon the Mongols a little bit before. I think that the Mongols, based on the way that they're going, will continue to make these incremental steps to the major, which is where I imagine they're planning to peak, which it should be for most teams. But they are nonchalant about that. The other names here. So FaZe getting eliminated and the whole Neo situation. Maybe we start there. What do we take on the Neo situation?
I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways from that is the fact that it came from management again. Like we heard that from the Carrigan interview, right? Like he's saying, "Oh yeah, like management made this decision. It came as a surprise for us because it's so close to the major, right? But it sort of signals that the players are safe for now." Like he was talking about it, and he also said, like, I don't think Neo was the problem per se, but obviously the results have been abysmal, and something had to be done, right? So. It seems another one of those changes that's a half measure and doesn't seem like super well thought out. There's already been a rumor that Ash is the new coach of FaZe because on his stream he said we instead of they, right? But here's the thing as well, like with all this conversation about Ash, right? It's like different teams need different coaches, and it's like working with star players and players who have a ego is not the same as working with young players who are on up and coming, right? And working for a small organization like Gamer Legion compared to someone, let's say, potentially like FaZe Clan, right? And just because he undoubtedly did a great job with Gamer Legion and all those different rosters, that isn't a given for people that he is going to do the same bang out job with FaZe, right? Because undoubtedly on a team like Gamer Legion, Ash has the last say, and he's dictating how they're going to play and all of this stuff. It's like on FaZe, that's going to be Carrigan.
Well, this is where the question comes in: is can Ash work as the coach of FaZe with Carrigan? And I think your answer there is going to be an unequivocal no. So then,
which leads into the next question.
Yes.
Well, I'm not saying it's an unequivocal. I say we don't know, right? I'm just saying people who think it's a guaranteed W, right, are maybe getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Obviously, I don't think it's an unequivocal no, because people can adjust.
Yeah, but would Carrigan want to call his game, right? He's been doing this for so long.
I'm saying more the adjusting could come from Ash's side than Carrigan's. I think Carrigan still has the reins in that sense, but
why would you bring Ash in then? Like the idea of bringing in Ash, if I was FaZe, in my mind, is for future building, right? Because what you do is you look at Gamer Legion and you look through some of the prospects that have come through that team. You don't look at you don't look at him and measure the catalog against who has a better understanding of how to run like the actual rounds. You would say Carrigan, right? And Carrigan's, if Ash is there, I think you'd want him to take over, that you'd want to move away from the Carrigan way of doing things.
Here's the way I see it, right? When you have an in-game leader like Carrigan and you have players like Twists on your roster and Frozen, right? Like, so you have good pieces, people who know the game. Your job isn't to teach them how to play the game. Your job is to give them options and tools so they can be in good situations on the server, right? And do I think Ash can do that? I think he can do that, right? But he needs to be second chair to Carrigan, right? Like Carrigan is the sort of a bit, how experienced and a veteran, how long is he's not going to change the way he does things now.
Exactly.
Right? Like he's going to ride it out until the end the way he can do it. And then depending on which direction the FaZe management wants to take the roster moving forward, yeah, maybe they want to bring in a younger IGL at some point and then have that sort of an academy team or whatever. Not academy team, but like the developed players, and then Ash is a perfect fit for that. But I'm saying it's like I'm not saying it's a bad match. I'm saying it's not 100% perfect match, like as some people maybe believe.
What do you think of it, Jason? Does it because that doesn't even have to be the coach they're getting, right? I think Carrigan in the interview, I think he was saying that they're going to weigh up options and see who makes the most sense as the coach. Whether or not that means they already know, these are interviews. So based, with what you want.
My initial reaction is pretty similar, I think, to most people, where it's like, I don't think Neo is in any way a problem contributing to the poor performances, but he certainly wasn't, as time went on, the solution in any meaningful way. And at this point, I think FaZe just need to find a solution. If Ash is going to be the coach, sure, I'd have the same concerns about him stepping into an experienced roster, but I think if Ash steps into a coach, for me, that message is being sent from, if I'm FaZe management right now, I'm saying the biggest obstacle that we've had to face is the idea that this roster no longer is impactful, and we don't have any flexibility or good moves to either find ourselves a new path into the future or change things to make sure this roster has a little bit of extra life to it. So I think if you bring in Ash as the coach, I think that's kind of a signal that you are saying essentially we're bringing Ash in because it's going to be his team. We like the qualities he showed in Gamer Legion in terms of growing talent in house, in terms of not dropping off significantly when you make roster changes when players leave. He's been able to keep a decent floor, and I think you have to come in and send that message that this is no longer like kind of like the players' team. This is no longer Kerrigan. Whatever. I don't even know if Kerrigan necessarily ever had the free reign that we think he might have, but you're saying essentially management's taking the decisions. We're taking this responsibility. We're bringing in a coach who's going to reflect that. And this is now a team that we're basically going to run. It's not going to be the players saying we want this guy.
It was management who decided that Rain was going to be benched.
Yeah.
That's who Twist is coming in for. Turned out great so far. You won 3 games this year.
Does this just turn out to be another Liquid situation then, right? Like where they find themselves lost, like can't see the forest for the trees for years?
Yeah, it's looking like that. I think for how much?
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead, Jason. You're fired up about this.
No, I'm just going to say I think they've been lost for 6 months. I think framing this as like moving forward into this that they're going to be lost is like that's not changing the situation all that much because I think this team has been lost.
I don't think anyone's surprised to see them bomb out in last place or play poor Counter-Strike. I don't think anyone is surprised to see management making more moves after the Jacob Rain. People say, I see the comment, it's like, Jacob didn't come in to replace Rain. It's like, well, no, he didn't. But if management, and I know the players have refuted this or said the contrary in interviews, but based on what I know, I think they wanted Rain to stay, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, again, take that as you will. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. I don't give a fuck.
No, I'm on the same line of thinking, especially the Twist one.
So now we're in this situation, right? I'm continuing this thought process that is the way that they will get away from that, right, is to move away from the Carrigan-led team. That is the only way, right? Because then you will need to rejuvenate how everything's done. Unless you're willing to spend money or you've found gold in terms of prospects for Jacob and Brokey. Right? Like, but you need to give Carrigan more players who can shoot. Otherwise, it ain't going to work.
Yeah, but it's also a matter of if they want to make that turnaround. There's no way they keep someone like Frozen. Why would he stay on?
Apparently, Prof said on the other episode that he had heard something that Frozen had extended his contract or re-signed or something. I don't know. Again, that one is also unverified AF.
I guess if he got good conditions, but I'm just saying, like, no player is going. Frozen is at the point of his career where he's established as a individual player. Now he'd like to be on a contending team and fight for trophies, right? And FaZe definitely isn't that team at the moment. Then you also have Twists on the roster who, let's be honest, has been prone to, when things are not working out, he wants out. Like if he is unhappy with the direction the team is going, or if it doesn't fit with his approach, like the way he thinks they should be approaching things. Maybe that's not the case yet in FaZe Clan, but I mean, we've seen it happen before. So there's still a lot of, potential booby traps for FaZe to deal with.
Do you think there's better options for any for a Frozen? Let's just say hypothetically he didn't re-sign and he has a chance at the end of the year to be a free agent. Like if you look at the teams, is there anyone that you could jump to that you feel like would immediately, this is like the hypothetical game, but
Navi.
You're not going to Vitality.
No, Navi would be
not
the
going
one
to Furia. You think Navi?
Navi would be the one to say Imma's positions, right?
Yeah,
and maybe it gives them a little bit more firepower output.
Yeah, but hasn't Navi always said? Yeah. I mean, the other side is the X factor. I don't know would Navi do that? They've always been very high on Ima and his decision making, and he seems to be pretty critical for Blade.
I think Frozen's more clutch than Ima.
Yeah, but Ima takes that role of kind of like an in-game secondary general. So in a way, right? Is Frozen going to do that?
He's emboldened on certain maps to take space, but in some of those situations, he does have Mikaze going first, or he has Mikaze to trade him. But that, I think this is the problem. Like this thought experiment that we're having right now, in terms of where would it go? You can do that with a lot of teams and a lot of players at the moment.
Yeah.
Like Malbs, for example, we all think something has to happen there, but you can't pinpoint what that something needs to be easily. right? You can't, and also once you do, you go, oh yeah, these players would be nice, and then you ask yourself, would these players ever join Malbs, right? Like you find yourself in just this weird situation with a lot of these where it doesn't feel there's the right players to service the right things in the right time. I don't know. We're in a weird spot at the moment.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from FaZe too, because I think all of us have definitely hit a point in the last 2 months where we're like, I don't fucking want to talk about FaZe because nothing's changed outside of that one run at the major. Other than that, every conversation has felt like it's been the same. Like this.
So is this finally it though, boys? Because all this conversation that we're having, right, put yourself in a scenario, and the people on Polymarket, they think that there's a pretty low chance, right? What are we talking? A 33% chance that FaZe will win a tier 1 event in 2026. And with how much of a mess it is right now, but with how much we continue returning to that same thing, we return to that same thing every time the major comes around. If they make it to the playoffs, anything's possible. I don't know if I believe that anymore, even though it's the same roster that made the grand final of the last one.
I mean, look, there's no way FaZe win. Well, I'll say it like this: there's no way.
100%, Jason.
No, I'm not doing it.
Do it.
There's no way this FaZe roster wins an event in 2026. The only way that actually
tier 1 event. Make sure you say tier 1. They might
tier
win
1
a
event.
tier
1 event.
Be careful.
But if the only way that changes is because FaZe would need a complete roster overhaul. Like if something after the major comes in and they say, fuck it, we're blowing this up. Like
you can only change 2 pieces.
Right. Okay. We're changing 2
3 pieces with a coach.
Let's just say hypothetically they go Brokey and Kerrigan are gone. We're bringing in 2 different people. Brokey and Jacob is obviously the easy ones to point out, but whatever it might be, you're going to, depending on the changes they make after the major determines whether this is even going to be possible. As it stands right now, absolutely fucking not. This team isn't winning a tier 1 event in 2026.
I even said it like a month ago or more than that. There's a higher chance of FaZe not making a major than them winning an event. Like that's how far away I feel they were from lifting a trophy, and now they're in danger of actually not even making the major. Is going to come down to this last little Dracula. And so honestly, even if they make 2 player changes, like even if let's say Brokey and Jacob are out and then bring in whoever would be an improvement over those 2 at the moment, like they're still so far behind, right, when it comes to a tier 1 event, where I don't think that there's a chance for them to actually do it this year.
So let's go this way then. If you could, right, because we always talk about this, and I think we can put this one to bed for a while until anything exciting happens out of the FaZe camp to put us there. But let's say, Jason, I come to you, I'm Eddie. I say, Jason, right now with the landscape the way it is, what would you do? What would be your moves to get FaZe back in a position for end of 2026 to be a competitive top 10 team?
I'm shopping fucking hardcore for the next 3 months from now until the end of the major for an opera, because I'm going to change that position regardless of what happens. Honestly, I'd probably change Kerrigan. Would be my next change. It'd probably be Brokey and Kerrigan for me to move out of this team.
Who in game leads?
Well, I think you put Twist in that role. If we're if the assumptions that we've kind of had over the past few months is that he's sort of like next in line to take that one up, I'd say we're in a rebuilding phase. Let's give Twist the helm of this. If we can't find a good IGL out there into the field, I don't know what IGLs are going to be available after the major, so I'm just going to throw Twist in there. And then you're just looking for an opper and a rifler, like a decent opper, hopefully a strong one if they're available, and then just a really strong above average rifler. And I'm assuming you'll have the opportunity to pick some of those up from a Malbs, who at some point is going to have to make some changes, or I don't know where else I'm going from there. That's where I'm at. Those are the players I'm changing, and depending on what's available is where I'm going.
If I could do anything just like completely wild and out of the box, I like the angle you've gone there with a twisted in-game lead. I think the Brokey changed too, but I've got a couple of things I want to do here, Jason. So first of all,
what you got? You only got 2 though.
No. I'm going to game the system hardcore.
Okay,
so
sure.
Carrigan's out, twist in-game lead, Carrigan to coach. Even though realistically that probably won't happen. He probably wants a break. But anyway, Carrigan coach, right? Twist in-game leading, Frozen's still there. You're going to keep Brokey, but he's going to rifle. And he's only going to play 5 games. He's out after 5 matches. He is just our bridge. He's our bridge.
Sure.
So we need to
You've
get an
taken
AWP.
this to the next level. I see what you mean.
Yeah. So I want, as far as this is concerned, I want Kaspersky. I'm getting him from NIP.
I was going to say him as well, yeah.
And I'm getting myself like an aggressive rifler in the mix, right, who can pick up some of the slack. Because Twister's still going to be able to play map control positions while in-game leading, but you want someone who's horny, who wants to get stuck in. And Kaspersky, he looks like he's ready to get stuck in. And he's not, NIP are what, like a top 20 team at the moment right now? So maybe you can get him. Now, the AWP is a hard one, right? The AWP is not an easy one to be able to find a solution on. I'm really struggling with the AWP.
Ultimate's out there.
I don't even know where to start with the AWP, really.
NQZ?
That's what I mean. Like, you have to like almost see who's going to be available when it comes around. Otherwise, you're just kind of like, I don't know, rolling the dice.
The AWP is the toughest
NQZ?
one that I'm looking at. NQC's not bad, but it's like I don't even know. He's not changing anything for me. Do I want someone who's more reliable?
He's less bad than Brokey.
That's true. We are looking for reliability here.
That's the hopping landscape right now.
Do you want to?
Yeah,
do we want to get
a?
We could get a mental AWPer. We could go a little bit nuts and get a Maka.
Okay, that is a crazy. That is
in that
crazy
realm.
swing.
He is the IGL now for 3D Max, so feels unlikely.
Listen, man,
You could go really crazy if you wanted to go really crazy and just actually fucking straight up see what fate can bring you. If you want to swing for like a symmetry on foot,
he doesn't look good on the AWP.
Yeah,
he looks fast. He doesn't look like he has positioning and the reads of how to like where he needs to be in different moments, but he's fucking fast.
try out Dexter short term.
This
his last
stage,
tournament,
I don't know.
he was the MVP.
Yeah, that's true.
Just
that
saying.
is true. Yeah, hard. If you could somehow get FaZe off of Astralis,
feels hard because he only just signed.
Games.
I know, but like, yeah. Anyway, it's dead. Okay,
Hades.
We can't. Okay, we're done with this. We can't. So we can't solve FaZe. FaZe are done. FaZe is done. That's fine. FaZe is fine. FaZe is fine. What a conclusion. I think we come to that every week.
I thought you were going to say, Chad, like you get OC and then you would find like one more rifler there on America's team as well.
That's not a bad one there at all. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How's this so bad?
FaZe is fucked.
Back to this middle of the table, mid-season check-in. Yeah.
Or check up. We're looking pretty good. I have to do this then, Yanko. We have to contrast here. We were just talking about whether FaZe will win a tier 1 event. The people on Polymarket think that there's a 57% chance Falcons win an S tier event in 2026. Is your faith starting to wane? You said before they look better with Nucleons than they do with Kyle Sucky. Is it Kyle's fault?
I don't know, man.
When will you lose hope?
I lost hope a long time ago.
When will you give up on Nico?
Never. Never.
Okay.
Well, unless he starts, if he doesn't switch to IGLing soon, I might be out. But it is like...
See, Zonic, is he limiting their face at matches?
It's funny because like I was going to bring that up and like people think he straight up banned everyone from playing it. And then people are checking, oh, Monacy played FaZe. That's how much he respects Zonic. It's like, no, they weren't banned for playing it. They just can't play 10 games a night if they have practice the day before and day after, which is sensible. And I was thinking about that. And I know, listen, I can tell you from experience, this is not something you want to do as a coach. You don't want to go into players' sort of private time on playing a game and tell them, I don't want you to play this as much, or I don't want you to do this. But I can also understand that he probably feels like his job is in jeopardy too, unless they start getting results soon. And he wants to do everything in his power to fix the problems that they have in ways in which he thinks they could be fixed, right? Because there's nothing worse than, there's issues in the team and problems, and you're sort of just going through, I don't want to say going through the motions, but you're doing like the standard stuff. Like you're going into practice, you're doing theory, you're doing all these things, but some of these issues persist and you haven't necessarily gotten creative about how to address them. You didn't try anything maybe that's a bit more severe, or however you want to call it, right? And then you end up not making any improvements, right? And things just keep going the same way. So if he feels that maybe those bad habits come from too much, just brain rot Counter-Strike on FaceIt, it's like, okay, let's limit that time so the stuff we do in practice gets more reinforced and doesn't just get washed away by like 5 FaceIt pugs every night.
I think there's also an element of it where, there is better time spent like not having to sit and watch demos. I know a lot of players find watching demos boring, which is fair enough. That's always been the case. Especially if you're like a flary, aggressive young player, you like to be out there dictating the tone of the game. But, working on setups with your teammates and stuff, or, finding this sick flash, or finding, okay, can they see me from this angle? All those little tiny, 1%ers that you're able to get out. If you're spending, a couple of hours doing that stuff as opposed to playing FaceIt matches, what you will actually see and benefit in the game is more, right? FaceIt is great because you're going through your reps, you're shooting people. That's kind of Counter-Strike, right? And it's good to also practice some of your little ratty, aggressive moves in FaceIt if you have them. But you were talking about this during EPL, Yanko. It's not for all players. I think you used Rops as an example, right? He's not a type of player, like anchor players aren't ones who are going to benefit too much from playing FaceIt, which is when you go to play as Rops, you need to turn something in your brain. It's like when I play FaceIt with Justin, it's like, Justin, you can't just be the B anchor. Like, you're the best player in the server right now. I need you to be the con guy. Like, and he's not practicing things that he would normally be practicing if he was playing Team CS. He's doing the thing that's best to win the pug, right? Or I'm trying to get him to do the thing that's best to win the pug.
You're trying to ruin his practice.
I want to win the pug. So there's certain things that impact it there, but Falcons being close to winning an S tier event, it still feels like they're in the orbit, but they need Mercury to be in retrograde, right? Like, I don't know what that actually means. I just know that the crystal mummies like that stuff.
Yeah.
But
it's a crystal mummies, aren't you, Chad?
Essentially the blue moon, right? This is what they can do it, but they need to, when they turn into a werewolf or like the Hulk, someone needs to make them angry, right? Like, something needs to happen to get them there.
Isn't this why Zonic made such a public thing about clamping down? If you look at Falcons, it feels to me you could do a deep dive, I'm sure, on like their meta tactics and strategies and blah, blah, blah. But the biggest thing holding them back is their inability to enact basic fundamental Counter-Strike in 5-on-3s and 4-on-2s. Like, how many of those fucking rounds have happened?
Well, yes. Okay, so historically, yes, and that's obviously something that they need to work towards not happening and losing them games. So what my framing of the Falcons versus Na'Vi match was one of two things. One is I wanted to see Falcons make improvement on exactly what you said, not to lose those scenarios that they should be guaranteed. My framing was I wouldn't have an issue with them losing rounds because you're always going to lose rounds as Counter-Strike. It's just in the way that you lose said rounds. And when I was watching them on Mirage, it was good CS. They were flashing for each other. They were playing off of each other. Like, it was good Counter-Strike in the first map that I saw in that series. As the series went on, obviously the frustrations start to brew because they are losing. That's kind of how it goes. Yep. But the other angle of that debate was I wanted to see Na'Vi be competitive against Falcons, whether or not they win, to show that EPL wasn't a fluke for them. And, well, Na'Vi ended up winning and Aurora ended up winning, which is good to reinforce the results of EPL. But is that a worrying sign for Falcons? It is, in the sense they now have to play Furia in the lower bracket if they can make the run, right? Or most likely Furia in the lower bracket. But I did think that they looked good, right?
That's the problem.
The first round, Kyosuke gets a 4K.
But they need to look back, that's the problem with Falcons. There's nothing there's not necessarily something glaring that you can point out from that game, but they need to be able to win that game at this point, right? Like, you look at that series was 33-33 in terms of opening kills and 3-3 in clutches, right? And in the end, it was just the output from Na'Vi was better. And of course, in the end, on Dust 2, which is supposed to be one of Falcons' better maps and that suits the players on the roster, they can't win a single T-side round after the first 3-0 start. Yeah. And honestly, if you look at round 4 after the 3-0 start in the second half, m0NESY gets a kill with a scout on mid while they're doing like this sort of B pop or mid to B split. And then instead of just running immediately into lower B and into tunnels and playing a 3v2, he sort of sticks around and when he doesn't have to and gets killed there. Like he's giving a 1v1 fight there. Sure, I know that if you go back, they'll know that you're going to be tunnels. Like they'll know where you're going to be, and you have a scout, and maybe you thought you wouldn't have enough time to get back and go into lower B before getting shot at. But those are the sort of rounds where you wish them to see, like, just try to play more together. And then if you see that you're still losing and these are bad calls, like, see what you can improve. Because something that you could say last season about Falcons is they looked better with each tournament, even though their tournaments ended in a similar fashion.
Their peak was kind of Melbourne, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And they were fixing the issues. Like, from Cologne was the worst tournament for them last season, right? But this year it feels like they regressed. And I don't know how big of a part is this whole Kyosuke thing. Like, he wasn't at Bounty, now he comes in here a day late. Like, that's disrupting your whole flow as a team and everything. I don't think that's enough for them to be used as an excuse. Like, they skipped EPL, so they've had plenty of time to practice. I think they absolutely have to make the playoffs here. Like, that would
Well, it's going to be tough, bro. But, like, this is not going to be an easy road.
I mean, Furia is also looking weak at the moment, and they were finally able to beat them in Cluj because they struggled with them mightily last season, right? But in Cluj, they were able to take them down in a 2-0 game, and that's what it's
Jason's
looking like.
Going to call the Tylo upset.
No, I ain't touching that one. I ain't touching that one. Tylo's only given me a win over FaZe, so I mean, that's not anything to fucking write home about, you know?
Yeah, look, it's the eventual.
It's getting
Falcons,
boring to talk about them. Like,
but yeah, but that's with so many teams. We're in that situation right now. FaZe, we're there. Falcons, we're there. Malbs, we're there. Like Aurora is showing some interest now because they seem to be breaking out of the mold. Navi as well with a bit of a
G2,
momentum shift.
I think is going to be
but
really
only
good.
recently interesting. Like, okay, at least they've made the playoffs, so like they've been able to follow through both of those names. But now that Furia or Falcons can't, the totem pole is going to shift, and then the same thing's going to happen in the other group. So it's like, well, Paravision versus Spirit. Last time Paravision beat Spirit, that was at Bounty, right? Okay, and that is as the Spirit roster just came together. The Mongols versus Vitality. If Vitality just continue owning, okay, the lower bracket over there is interesting. Like, Maus are already down there. You're going to have the Mongols or Vitality. You're going to have Spirit or Paravision. And that means only one of those bunch of names will be able to make it out of that lower bracket.
That group is way harder, man. So if Falcons don't make the playoffs out of this fucking group, is like, give me a break.
But I do want this to be the slide for Maus. Like, I actually want the slide to continue. I want them to not make playoffs because they're not doing anything.
You want to force their hand. You want to force.
Let someone else go there, bro. Like, let someone else. Like, let me
give
get
someone
excited
else
about
a
different name, right? Like, I don't want to see them beat the Mongols in another quarterfinal or semifinal and then lose to the next team.
Well,
like,
they'll have to
let someone else have a go.
They'll have to play the loser of Paravision Spirit, so that's going to be interesting.
And they'll probably win that. But
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Falcons, no closer, no further. FaZe, much further. Navi, getting closer. Aurora, making some moves. It's just Vitality and everyone else jostling.
For the teams that we just said are like kind of positive and showing a little bit of interesting things, like your Navis, like your Aurora, we'll throw G2
I think
in
Mongols
there.
is interesting to me.
Mongols, any of them at their peak have a chance to beat Vitality?
Well, that's it. We don't know until Vitality have had, 3 weeks off?
Yes.
Right? They've had 3 weeks off since Cluj. They looked good yesterday, but they were only playing against 9Z.
I mean, I would say of those three teams, we haven't really seen G2. On paper, I feel like the peak of that team should be pretty sick. I just don't know if they'll be able to
we won't see G2 for a while, man.
Yeah. But like, I don't think Mongols has a chance to beat Vitality. Like, I don't think they could actually do it on their best day. I mean, outside of like Herculean,
we don't think anyone can, right?
No, not right now.
I don't know. Sometimes I do.
That's a problem. Spirit looks like dog shit as a team. Like, they just have Donk, but even he can't overcome that, especially not against a team like Vitality. So that's the boring part about our scene, man. Somehow everyone got worse over the break.
Vitality got better without doing anything. They're just chilling.
Exactly. They're just by
that's
existing.
So brain dead.
But that glass ceiling only stays intact if Vitality win this event.
This is how you know it's a Vitality era. Like this is the conversation that we needed last year for it to be the Vitality era last year. Like we went through this exact same shit. Remember when Astralis was at their peak in like 18, early 19? We're like, how does anyone fucking beat this team? No one's even fucking close. Everyone's getting further away. Astralis just keeps getting. But now we're having the same convo about Vitality. Like it always changes. It always comes around. We just never know how. I'm amazed though. Over the course
we did have
now,
this conversation about Vitality in the first season of last year.
Yeah, we did.
They were on crazy streaks. They hadn't lost anything. They ended up losing a best of one.
But that's what makes this feel even more crazier now is it's a year and a half later. Like even the fucking Fnatic dominance era was a year. Even the NIP like 87 and
well, that's why Vitality's in the conversation with
the
Astralis. They're not in the conversation with a Fnatic or a LGSK or a NIP, right? Or they're Vitality Astralis they live in a world of their own, those two teams. Because before Astralis lived in a world of their own. Now Vitality
those two teams are in a world of their own. NIP 87 and 0 is in a world of its own for various reasons.
It's like Pluto. It's lucky to be listed as a planet.
Sure. Actually, Pluto's a great fucking example for that. It's actually, it's perfect.
Yeah. But I think there's lots of fun things like that to watch at Rotterdam right now. Like
I do
Liquid
too.
are winning 8-3. Who would have thought? That's something fun to watch.
Yeah, that's
Bro,
great.
If NIP lose to this, NIP, you're never going anywhere. Come on,
dude.
Man.
If NIP lose this, Kaspersky might be available to head over to fucking FaZe. You know, he might be on the fucking block.
Poor Kaspersky, man. Give him
All
an
right.
AK-47 and let him go.
Have we hit it?
On loan? He's still on loan.
He's still on.
Still on loan from Ents.
So he's officially an Ents player.
And Ents was going back to a full finish lineup, so he's on the chopping block, just like all of that team.
Okay.
All right, there we go. He's actually available. We can do it. We can save.
We can send him
FaZe,
to FaZe.
maybe.
All right. Let's get out of here.
We've hit 2 hours. Anyone else got anything else? No, we good? Nice.
I'm going to go outside in the sun.
Yeah. I'm going to go do some yard work.
Sounds nice. I'm going to go be sick with my family.
Peace out.
Have fun, Yanko.
All right. Sweet dreams, everybody.
Bye.